get this. Put this here. Send this. Morning. One sec, folks. Just now, I'll be back. Alright. Morning. Pauline Buckmeyer. Morning, Pauline. Pauline says it's cold. Yeah, Pauline, I saw you last summer. Snow in Florida. A rarity, and people are so let me get to see. Right. Yeah. Try and see if people are taking advantage of it. Unprecedented weather. Rookman Gangadin, morning, Rookman. Gillan Jackson, morning, Gillan. Gillan, I suppose you would be cold too from Canada. Arlene Lewis, morning, Arlene. Gabriel Philip. Carol Boyce John, morning. Cyril Mayas, morning, sir. Pamela O'Connor, morning to you. Wazid, morning, sir. Denise Bramble, morning, Denise. Leon Joseph. Watoko Guy, morning, Leon. Wayne Pedro, morning, Wayne. Udani Bruce, morning. Key Borrell, morning to you. Alberta Sampath, proud to be Trini. Annette Baird, morning, guys. Hazel Sinnott, morning. Gillian Timmerman, morning, Gillian. Annette Neptune, Kenneth Gabriel, Marlene Pantin, Althea, morning to all of you all. Celestine Elaine, morning. Margaret Thomas, Marian Edwards, yeah. Shah, morning. Mindful Consumer, Jennifer Nicholas, morning to you guys. Shelton Lewis, Mikkel, morning. Leon says the weather is lovely in Toko this morning. Gilan said it's very cool in Canada. I don't envy all or not, Gilan. Just tasting that cold weather in December was more than enough for me. Good. Give me my Trini son. Kennedy Joseph, Annette Hunt, Joan Lawrence, Randolph Coffee, morning to you guys. Gail Jack, Ann Niles, Bless One, Anne-Marie Arthur, and Phyllis Farrell, morning to all of you folks we have on Facebook. Rudolph Barnett, morning, sir. Alicia Almande Rocher, morning. Morning, Diane. Ian Michael Cloudon, morning. Ian. Sarah Richards. Carol Myers, morning, Carol. Carol, I think the weather by me is similar to by you, so I'll call you after, Carol. Yeah. After the show, I'll give you a call. Claire Carrington, morning. Christopher Serrett, morning to you. Let me see. Let's come with this thing, right? Jenny Joseph, Jennifer Nathan, John Edwards, Jennifer Dorset, morning, guys. Adriana Alexis, Gloria Daniel, Nicole Williams, Gemma Alexander, morning to all of you. Joyce Neves, Kathy Roberts, Jenny Joseph. Jenny says I need to cover all week. Jenny, I overslept this morning. I normally wake up at 5:45 when I have to do the live, and then I say, I'm not telling you, 6 o'clock. But as we get closer to the elections, I'll see what adjustments can be made. Ashton Clark, Judy Bowen, morning Judy, Ian Joseph Alicia, morning Alicia, Hazel Ann Simmons, Eva Smith Spivey, morning Phyllis Antoine, Betty Lynch, morning Betty, Ruth Frontin, Maria Lyons, Anne-Marie Billy, Hazel Thompson, Claire Irish, morning Jenny, Jennifer Frederick, and Jenny Bengoshi, Anastasia Jackie, Nadia Lewis Dixon, Carlos Fornilio, my paramount friend, morning sir. Let's see. Alicia is saying I need to come on Monday to Friday and Sunday. We have the talk on the radio again in the morning. Really? On to Sharon on Google. Nadia Lewis Dixon says it's freezing. Good morning to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Pleasantville, Nigel O'Connor, and First Lady Mauricia Keegan. Kimberly Dennis, Francia Panchu, Lucille Phillips, morning guys, Dion Lewis, Alison Boyce, Joycelyn Smallwhite, morning, Yvonne Blake, Joyce Joseph, Gloria Lazare Green, Rude, Annette Neptune, all of you guys, morning. I said already late, look at the time, 6:46. Where does the time go? Was it CUT going on the other thing? All right, we'll come back to that. So let me start with just let me get this here, right? Playing smart with foolishness. We'll deal with the minor first, as I say sometimes. Remove pest cockrico from the coat of arms. Story by Melissa Minard in the which newspaper is this? I don't know. Let's see. The Express. Chairman of the Tobago Business Chamber, Martin George, is calling for the removal of the cockrico national bird from the coat of arms. Somebody needs to tell Melissa that you have to, anyway, capitalize the cockrico. But anyway, on Sunday in a newspaper advertisement by the Office of the Prime Minister Communications, the new coat of arms was revealed displaying an image of a gold steel pan and two pan sticks, replacing the three ships of Italian explorer Christopher Columbus. And this new this new design, is creating a bit of stirring up some waves also, because there are people who say they don't like it. They find the two pan sticks looking like the pan has legs, and who talking about a primary school student could have do that, and anybody could have do that using a free Canva template, and they went to town. So much so that the designer Gillian Bishop was interviewed by the media, and she had to, I think she made the comment that, she doesn't care the criticisms that she's getting and so on, because she says it's part of the course, and she was given a job to do, and she did it, and she indicated that she would have submitted several options to the government, and that is the one that was chosen. And therefore, she had no hand in the choice, but she didn't limit it. She said if she wanted to so do, she could have just given the government one option, and that's it. But she gave them several options, and whoever would have gone through it and would have made a decision that is the one that they're going with, right? Much to the consternation of some people, inclusive of Wade Mark, waste of time, who was saying that the government broke the law and whatnot, and the citizens didn't get a chance to participate in the process and all these different things. Okay, I can see you could put forward that argument. Perhaps the options could have been put on the table and could have had some. Anyway, it didn't make sense because people are just run them out, but when the opportunity presents itself for them to contribute and to speak on issues and to share their views, they don't take up the opportunity, right? So, yeah, the decision has been made, and that is that. Coming back to this article. In a video post on Monday, George congratulated the inclusion of the pan, but took issue that the same effort was not made to remove the national bird, which he described as a pest. The fact that our Prime Minister is from Tobago and did not see it fit to also make a very important change to the coat of arms. Since we are making changes to the coat of arms, we might as well do all the proper changes now. So it didn't occur to Martin when this announcement was first made around August last year. The many times that he's been interviewed and so on television and whatnot, to have made this suggestion or this recommendation. You wait until after the proverbial ship has sailed, then to come and say this, right? To create another uproar now. Okay, so then you have to go back out and anyway. But here the recommendation he made that is the kicker. This awful, and I make no apologies for saying so, an unacceptable bird, the cockrico that graces our coat of arms, and which is designed or designated as the bird of Tobago, so it's Tobago's national bird. So if you're advocating the removal of the cockrico from the coat of arms, are you also advocating that Tobago's national bird be changed as well? Which of course would require some referendum in Tobago, because remember they love to say that Tobago is treated as the bastard child and a ward of Trinidad, and we just make decisions without consulting. So therefore you would now have to go and consult with the people of Tobago, and the Farley-led administration will insist on that and whatnot. It's another headache, right? To drag out this thing even longer. We went from we don't want no changes to since we're making changes, let's add this and let's do this. But anyway, yes, he says it's an awful creature. It's destructive. It's loud. It's raucous. It's noisy. It serves no useful purpose, and yet it is a protected bird. He said. He questioned why is the cockrico still there, and Dr. Keith Rowley should have done a service to Tobago and removed the bird. I am certain Martin George has had opportunity to speak to Dr. Rowley in person, because come on, you're a prominent attorney. You could have sent this recommendation to the office of the Prime Minister, come on, something. He suggested it could be replaced with the hummingbird, which also exists in both islands. There is absolutely no redeeming feature of this creature. We asked the government look immediately at removing the cockrico from the coat of arms and put the hummingbird instead, he urged. He said there's absolutely no reason to keep this destructive pest called the cockrico as a protected bird, or the bird of Tobago, or even on our coat of arms. Somebody please tell Martin George, if he hasn't looked at the coat of arms lately, that the hummingbird is already on the coat of arms. It's on the shield. There are two hummingbirds just above the pan. In fact, there is one hummingbird right next to the cockrico and one next to the scarlet ibis. The hummingbird is already there, Mr. George. I don't know if you missed it, momentary lapse, but if you take a close look, it's right there. Two, in fact, they're already there. So are you proposing that we remove the two hummingbirds from the shield and or what? Or put a big hummingbird and then plus the two that it appears you didn't see or you're not aware of? Come on now, man. Seriously? Hey, boy. Sean Serrano says the birds reminded him of Farley. Sure, you're wicked. Yeah, but you see, that's why they want to play smart with foolishness, and they want to be bright. It's already there, Martin. Okay, so I just throw in that out to the hummingbirds already at the coat of arms. So maybe you can suggest how you want it. I don't know. Okay. Boy. Never a dull moment in Sweet TNT, right? Never a dull moment. Okay, let me get this in. Martin, boy. One other Martin I need to deal with too, but I don't have the time today. And another one called Avery. I'll see if I can touch on Avery today. Synonym, that is. All of them who coming out of the woodworks now and have advice. Let me get this here. Israel saying maybe Martin suffering from old age. Some of them in their haste to criticize, right? End up looking foolish. Poor soul. So let me play this for you all one time before we get to the main event. So, well, let me get it here. Where this thing gone, way? What trouble is this? So, just give me 1 sec, folks. I know I had this thing saved. Right.
Is that which says
Right, so I'm just playing a short clip here
of homicides in
from
a single.
the Barbados Attorney General.
For Barbados and Barbadians, the statistic that is most alarming is that which says that in this year, 2024, we have now reached the highest number of homicides in a single year in our history. That number is 49. For you, 49 may not seem like a significant figure, but 49 homicides in little Barbados is a big thing for us. But even that statistic speaks to even more concerning social concerns, since of that number, 49, 16 were as a result of stabbings and bludgeonings. The others were from firearms. That 16 that were the results of stabbings and bludgeonings suggests that there may be underlying mental issues, conflict resolution issues, or anger management issues that we also have to embrace and grapple with as countries. Barbados also needs better ways to work with our fragile and vulnerable communities, making them safer and more resilient to crime. We must be able to improve the environments in which our children live and learn and create more opportunities for them when they become adults. Citizen security must be a reality and not just a concept that we hear about and speak about. It must be one that bears a relationship to people's lives.
So that was the Barbados Attorney General speaking at a regional security and justice summit sometime late last year. Of course, he mentioned the time that Barbados had recorded 49 murders, which was the highest number of murders recorded in Barbados in any 1 year. So it seems not only the Trinidad, just like Trinidad and Tobago, we would have recorded our highest number of murders last year, 620 something. Barbados also did the same. He stopped at 49, but of course, subsequent to that, there were more murders, right? At the time, it was 49, but there were more. And he made the mention there that, of course, the majority of those murders were committed through the use of firearms, right? And the Prime Minister, Mia Mottley, just a couple of days ago, again, is lamenting the crime situation in Barbados, given the fact that they've already had 3 murders for the year. And in 2023, they had recorded 20 murders, and then they saw an increase of over 30 murders in 2024. And they started off the year on the wrong note with 3 murders up to I think the 12th of January. So I don't know if they've had more murders since then, but she has been lamenting the increase in gun violence in Barbados. Right? So there's another thing I wanted to touch on here just now. Let me get it. Right. So, come on, thing. Where is it? I see this thing. All right, give me 1 sec, folks. I'm going to have to find it another way. So, 1 minute. Here we go. Yes. Barbados AG says the island will not be held under siege. The Barbados government says it will not allow any community on the island to be held under siege under any circumstances. Attorney General Dale Marshall said that 2025 has begun with gunmen wreaking havoc in the densely populated community of the Pine in the southwest portion of the island. Gunmen wreaking havoc. He said, fortunately, while the injuries sustained have not been life-threatening, what has obviously been threatened is the ability of residents to live peacefully in their homes and to be outdoors in the night as is their right. We will not allow any community in Barbados to be held under siege, not under any circumstances. The police is therefore determined that as an immediate response, the Pine areas will see saturated policing. Marshall said this response will certainly place increased pressure on manpower resources, but this is necessary at this stage, and that there are, of course, other matters that are being pursued, but those are operational matters that are left up to the police leadership. Marshall said he's asking the residents of the Pine to match the police efforts at making them safe by coming forward with whatever information they may have, no matter how insignificant they may feel it to be. Early information allows the police to be more effective in their efforts and can even help them to prevent these kinds of occurrences. He says this is not an idle statement. On numerous occasions, the police service have been able to make steps to neutralize threats to our communities, completely unknown to residents, help them to help you. From the government side, we are continuing to strengthen the hand of law enforcement in a variety of ways, technical, financial, and legislative. We are also working collaboratively with our CARICOM sister governments to address the crime issues that we are all seeing on the rise across the region. Not Barbados and Trinidad, that we are all. This is the Barbados Attorney General making this point, right? The Attorney General says he continues to work every day at keeping the criminal element in check, praising the members of the Barbados police who put their lives and well-being at risk constantly to keep us all safe. So we see here, right? So I hear them calling for no crime plan and saying that the Minister of National Security for Barbados must go and Mia Mottley must go. In fact, the very people in Trinidad here who always calling for Hines to go and Rowley to go, praising Mia Mottley and wishing that she would come here and be your prime minister here. But she is having a challenge dealing with the crime situation in her country, right? With a population of 285,000 persons. 285,000 persons. The Prime Minister of Barbados is having a challenge with gun crimes. She's having a challenge dealing with the murder rate, which, as I told you earlier, is the highest in the country's history last year. So if she's having a challenge with 285,000 people, and all who call in for her and wish she was the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, you think she could handle the crime situation in a population of 1.5 million people? And she's having challenges with 285? Really? But only expect miracles from Rowley and miracles from Hines. St. Vincent and the Grenadines having the same problem. They have a population of about 135,000 people. Right? Even smaller than Barbados. And Ralph Gonzalez is having a challenge dealing with the crime situation, gun crimes in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In Antigua Barbuda, they're having the same problem. Again, population under 200,000 persons. They're having the same problem in St. Kitts and Nevis. Again, population under, as you heard the Attorney General said, all the Caribbean countries having that problem. Dominica has a population of 72,000. You would think that that is easy, that is manageable. I mean, we have more people in one constituency, not one constituency, but in one regional corporation than they have in total on the entire island. Tunapuna Piako has over, what, probably close to 200,000 burgesses, almost 3 times the population of Dominica. But they're expecting miracles from Dr. Rowley. But I, just thought I would make mention of that as I came across it, right? Yeah. Never a dull moment in sweet TNT. But of course, they're taking chain up from the mistress of the mask, who are coming to shortly. There was one other thing I think I see that I wanted to touch on. Let me see if I get it here before I go there. So this morning is a Craving Indulgence moment, and you all know when I say that, what happens, right? You know who I play. So I ask you to bear with me. Editorial in The Guardian. Kamla may need a lesson or two in diplomacy. Opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar has never been the most diplomatic of politicians. In fact, when she took office in 2010 as Trinidad and Tobago's first female prime minister, it wasn't long before she angered Caribbean colleagues and friends with an open declaration that Trinidad and Tobago was not an automated teller machine, as she all but closed off years of TNT's financial support to regional countries during times of need, sounding similar to what's taking place in the United States, where Donald Trump has put a halt on all foreign aid for at least 90 days. A few years ago, she wrote to the US government claiming that the Trinidad and Tobago government had breached sanctions against Venezuela amid ongoing negotiations for the Dragon gas deal, while suggesting that the US should sanction cabinet members in Port of Spain, but not members of the UNC. Now, she has taken an unnecessary and unprovoked dig against outgoing US President Joseph Biden in a statement that was meant to congratulate incoming US President Donald Trump on his inauguration. In her words, the Biden administration was a disaster for the American people and the world, before doubling down and using the term absolute disaster yesterday after experiencing a powerful blowback from her comments on Monday. Like many others, we ask why Mrs. Persad-Bissessar lacked the courage to express her obvious disdain while the Biden administration was in office, something she could easily have done by writing to the US ambassador or directly to Washington, as she has done previously. Fair point. But alas, having been called out on her stance on social media and by various commentators, Mrs. Persad-Bissessar has listed 20 reasons for her position, focusing on the Biden administration's policies on religious tolerance, gender affairs, and censorship, all of which she defined as elements of a woke culture. Like any other citizen, Mrs. Persad-Bissessar is entitled to her personal convictions. However, to use her constitutionally appointed office to disparage the former president of one of our closest allies is alien to this country's approach to diplomacy and international relations. While we have in the past managed to disagree with the positions of other countries, our foreign policy over the years has been to stay out of the internal politics of other nations. Arguably, TNT and CARICOM enjoyed closer ties with the Biden administration than any other US administration in recent history, even though many of the initiatives announced were not fulfilled by the end of his tenure. The man was only there for 4 years. Certainly under the last Democratic government, we have met more open doors in Washington than we have had in a long time. Apparently, Persad-Bissessar missed that, and she thinks that was a bad thing. Wonder why? TNT has its own battles to fight, and the results of the general election this year will determine who will speak directly to Washington on our behalf. Whether that party is the incumbent PNM, the UNC, or any other, as a country, we would want the best diplomatic talent to safeguard and expand our interests with the United States of America. In this light, Mrs. Persad-Bissessar would do well to focus on convincing voters that her party is best poised to lead this country in that regard, as it is the performance at home that will sway the TNT electorate, and not the performance of either the Biden or Trump administrations in the United States. Couldn't have said it better myself. But the question asks, like many others, we ask why Persad-Bissessar lacked the courage to express her obvious disdain while the Biden administration was in office, something she could have easily done by writing to the US ambassador or directly to Washington, as she has done previously. Well, the answer is obvious. She's a yellow-belly coward. She's a yellow-belly coward, and she is highly irresponsible, right? The reason why she didn't do it while Biden was still in office, prior to the election, after the election, when it was clear that Kamala Harris had lost, and even up to the day before Mr. Biden would have demitted office, she could have done so, and she didn't. Because she understood the position that she holds, the office that she holds, and the impropriety of her making such a damning statement against another government. This is somebody who is hoping to be the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and we expect you to be a little more responsible. You have been a parliamentarian for what, some 30 years or so, and therefore you ought to know better when it comes to diplomacy. Regardless of your love and your adoration for Donald Trump, yeah, that perhaps, well, I don't know, as I said, you're probably a fan of Fox News. And so you love, because you lead the party that, into my mind and the minds of many other citizens, is perhaps the foremost party when it comes to propaganda, lies, and misinformation in this country. So it is no surprise as to why you would gravitate towards Donald Trump and the Republican Party. As the article said, she's entitled to her personal opinion. But if you want the freedom to be able to express that personal opinion, then you need to do what, take a page from Dr. Rowley's book. Resign your post as opposition leader, leave politics, and go home and cock up your foot on your recliner or whatever it is you have home, your what is call it, your Cleopatra lounge chair, or whatever it is, wherever you sit on, right? Cock up your foot, and you could see what you want. You could send out a press release. Of course, it would not carry the weight that it carries now, because you would now be citizen Kamla. You no longer have any status, and therefore nobody will pay you any mind. But so long as you occupy the office of leader of the opposition, and you have the potential or the possibility of becoming this country's next prime minister, God forbid, you need to exercise restraint in the things that you say. Okay? And as is to be expected, she doubled down, because she doesn't want to, she understands, but she refuses to accept the admonition that she has been getting from several quarters, right? Maybe she wasn't expecting this blowback, because she probably figured that, like her, whose brain has been addled by Fox News, that all of Trinidad and Tobago would see things from her perspective. And we make the point, Mrs. Pasabi says, the issue is not about the substance or the validity of the things that you have said, the criticisms you've leveled against the Biden administration. The issue is the position that you hold, right? And the position that you could hold in the not too distant future, again, God forbid, calls on you to exercise a certain level of restraint in things that you see. Because I am certain, when you left office in 2015, if the leader of some opposition leader or any other party in the Caribbean region, in extending congratulations to Dr. Rowley, had described your administration from 2010 to 2015 as a disaster, which to my mind it can be described as, you would have taken issue and offense to that, regardless of the fact that even if you had left politics altogether, as you should have done, as your predecessors have done. When you lose a general election, you boss out. You step down as leader. But then again, you learned from your predecessor, Basdio Pandey, because when he lost in 2001, he refused to accept the loss. They said Robinson was supposed to make him prime minister, and he refused to. He remained as the political leader. And the supporters of your party, continued to allow that. Right? And you just followed suit. But he had one general election loss. You had two. So, he had one in 2007 as well, and he still refused to step down, right? Until you had to wrest political power from him and leadership of the party from him. The PNM don't do that. See, when Mr. Manning lost, what did he do? He stepped down. He stepped aside. When George Chambers lost, what did he do? He stepped aside. All right? But in all your party, all you don't do them thing. You hold on to power until you're dead, or at least you try to. So, as referenced here, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa decided to double down, right? She couldn't choose the easy way out, the sensible way out. So you put out something, you put out a congratulatory message to to Donald Trump. You did not need to make any mention of the previous administration, because we saw that you did that in 2020 when you congratulated Joe Biden. You did not attack Donald Trump. You didn't describe Donald Trump's regime or Donald Trump's tenure as a disaster, right? In fact, you made no mention. Donald Trump's name did not appear anywhere in your congratulatory message to Mr. Biden, which says to us that since back then, you had this imaginary love affair with Mr. Trump, this admiration, right? But acknowledging the office that you hold, you felt compelled to send a congratulatory message, which you didn't need to, honestly, because nobody cares. The things that you put out, from your current posting, nobody really cares. Okay? So if you didn't put out one, nobody would have criticized you for it. Right. So rather than do the thing you'd expect, which you get some licks, oh gosh, retreat. Retreat and allow the proverbial 9-day wonder to take place. And probably in less than 9 days, people would have done forget about you and that issue already because, something else would probably have happened and you get away. But no, you decide you want to double down, right? You want to play manish, as they say. I don't know if you probably passed by the testicle box, the big box that you keep. Well, it wouldn't be big because you don't need a big box for that. The box that you keep the testicles of all the men in the UNC who you've emasculated, which is basically all of them. And maybe you probably got a whiff of testosterone because you didn't have much of that in that box, never did. But you probably get a whiff of it and suddenly you get mannish. So you decide you want to put on gloves and fight. So rather than retreat and let this thing blow over, you want to keep it alive. How did she do so? Well, let me read it here. Let me get it here. Where is it? Where is it? I know I saved it. Did I save it here, boy? Oh. Yes, no. Give me 1 sec, folks. Let me find this thing. There's too many things as I've saved. Nope. So where is it? That's probably what I did. Okay. So let me just give me 1 sec. Let me get it here. Yes, no. 1 sec. I'm doing all of this research. Sometimes you forget to save stuff. Right. I firmly stand by my comments regarding the Joe Biden administration. And this is something that she sent out, a press release that she sent out with the letterhead of the leader of the opposition, right? Government stationery. So it's an official position that she's making. This is not something she sent out on just a normal white piece of paper, Kamla Prasad Bisasa's opinion. This is the opinion, because once it's sent out on the official stationery of the leader of the opposition, this is the official position of the office of the leader of the opposition of Trinidad and Tobago. So understand the significance of it, right? For the trolls who want to try and minimize what was said and talking nonsense. She lied, she ain't lie, and Biden do this and Biden do that. We come into that. I believe the previous administration was an absolute disaster. So we went from disaster to absolute disaster. If you didn't hear me, the first time, it was an absolute disaster. The PNM and other critics have come out supporting the Joe Biden administration. No. The PNM and other critics have admonished you. They have excoriated you because you made up a personal position, a personal view, a personal opinion, the opinion of the opposition leader and the office of the leader of opposition in Trinidad and Tobago, right? Which some would define as the government in waiting. That is what you were challenged for. Not about, this has nothing to do with coming out in support of. It is drawing to your attention something that you are fully aware of, which is the reason why you didn't make this opinion known during Joe Biden's term, prior to the election, after the election, and even up to the point when, before he demitted office and Donald Trump was sworn in. You did not make the statement public. And you know why you didn't do it. Because you knew, because of the office and position that you held, it would have been improper so to do. So stop playing smart with foolishness. She goes on. Therefore, the PNM and my critics should tell the country if they support these, which occurred under the Joe Biden administration. 1, tampons in teenage boys' bathrooms. You have proof of that, Mrs. Prasad Bisasa? Tampons, why would there be tampons in teenage boys' bathrooms, Prasad Bisasa? Because if these boys identify as female, they would use the female bathroom, right? So there would be no need to put tampons in the boys' bathroom. Puberty blockers for teens without parental consent. Where they get these teens getting the puberty blockers from? The government set it up and given out and tell them, well, you could go to the nearest pharmacy, or you could sign up a form like CDAP if you want to get puberty blockers. Where were they getting it? Without parental consent? Really? Really? Without parental consent? Will you have evidence and proof of that? But we know where you get that from, right? Out of the mouth of your idol. Yeah, you're behaving like a little teeny bopper. Donald. Gender reassignment surgery for children. Gender reassignment surgery for children. How is that being paid for? Because we know anything that deals with healthcare of any kind, mental, physical, others, is not free in the United States. It's extremely expensive. Just to get an ambulance in the United States to take you to the hospital is a cost. So gender reassignment surgery for children. No child can afford that on their own, right? So if they wanted gender reassignment surgery, this is a discussion that they would have had with their parents. Because the parents had to pay for it, and the parents had to give consent, because no doctor going and perform any gender reassignment surgery on a child without getting the consent of the parent, lest they should be sued for every penny and dime that they have and then some, right? So if a parent, if that did in fact happen, it would have been done with the consent and the approval of the parent. But again, we know where it is you get this nonsense from. Sexualization and grooming of children under the guise of human rights. So you are against the sexualization and grooming of children under the guise of human rights. Okay? But if it's not under the guise of human rights, you're okay with it, right? Because your counselor that you have down in South, who was using sexualization and trying to groom a 15-year-old boy, and that's the only one we know about, because it's only that one, is only his mother came out, right, and took screenshots of the text, the WhatsApp messages, and screenshots of the videos that the individual is engaging in, lying on a bed naked and telling the boy, the things he wants to do to him, and look how he's excited for him, and look how it stand up for you, and all kind of nonsense, right? All of these things you are fully aware of, and we know, fully aware of. But as I said, we only know about this one boy, so we don't know if perhaps he may have tried to groom other young boys in the area who were perhaps more susceptible, and maybe he get through. We don't know. Maybe he pass our money, and somebody else might, who are a little more vulnerable economically and otherwise probably don't have an issue with selling their son. So we don't know, but we just know about this one who was totally disgusted by it and took screenshots and would have sent the information to the UNC Cabal, the administrator for the UNC Cabal page, who would have posted up these things on the page so people could see. It's not just old talk. You're seeing the videos of the individual text messages and all of that. And the mother said, the only reason why she didn't go to the police because she don't want to put her son through that and all of that, and the embarrassment, and then people know who he is, and you know how people could be. But we saw it. And as I said before, members of the UNC, high-ranking members of the UNC, have on numerous occasions made reference to that Facebook page with information that has been leaked and has proven to be correct. Jayanti Lakshmidiyal, Rudal Munilal, this counselor from Anil something, I can't remember his name, or whatever. So they are familiar with the page and the content of that page. But you had nothing to say about that. In fact, you allowed the man to come and serve another term, this time a 4-year term as a counselor. So perhaps he could use his good office to, satisfy his sick, dirty fetish. His sick, dirty fetish of, as you say, sexualization and grooming of young children. So you don't have a problem with it happening in your party. They're saying Joe Biden and they encourage it. We continue. Adult men use the same public washrooms as little girls and women. Well, I want to ask you a question this morning, Prasad Bisesa. When you appointed the transgender hairstylist from South to serve on more than one occasion as a temporary opposition senator in the Senate of Trinidad and Tobago, and I know these Senate sessions, these parliamentary sessions tend to last long, so the possibility exists that the individual would have had cause to use the bathroom at some point in time during the session? Which bathroom did he, she, they use? Because he, she, they identifies as female. But based on your criticism of what you say, but Joe Biden's administration's policies, and now Trump saying he only identifies two genders, male and female, which is correct. Right? So he ain't recognizing no transgender. You don't want to hear nothing about that. You're born a man, you're a big hard back man. So as far as he's concerned, the transgender hairstylist that you put to sit in the nation's Senate, right? So that they could applaud and say, hey, look up first, the UNC, look what the UNC has done. The UNC has given opportunity to the transgender community and so on, because you're trying to appeal anywhere you could get votes, right? And Donald Trump had to deal with that person, as far as he's concerned, as a big hard back man. I don't care if it is that you have long hair, you have on makeup, you probably have implants on your chest. Your birth papers say you were born a male, you're a big blasted hard back man. Which restroom did this hard back man use in the parliament? And was it appropriate? Because you talk here about adult men using public washrooms as the same as little girls and women. So the female staff in the parliament who probably use the same washroom, did you spare thought for them that they may be uncomfortable if they walk into the washroom and find this individual who, based on Trump's position, is a big hard back man in the female washroom? You spare thought for that? Because remember, these parliamentary employees don't have the privilege that you have to have an office with a private washroom in the parliament building. So they have to use whatever is set aside for them. And I suppose that maybe the members of parliament will probably use that same facility, and they probably have a separate one for the general public. But again, I ask the question, which restroom did he, she, or they use? And one of your points here is about gender pronouns as well. Well, forgive me, right? Because I'm confused, because I don't know if to call the individual he, she, and not wanting to offend, I will use they. But since you have an issue with pronouns, perhaps you can tell us which pronoun we should use for that individual, who last night on CNC3 News was talking about, he, she, they. If you know Mrs. Prasad Bissessa, she never discriminates and so on, and based on race and this and that, but couldn't answer the direct question. So I'm asking you, Prasad Bissessa, which restroom did he, she, or they use? When he, she, or they goes to a restaurant or any public place and they need to relieve themselves, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, which restroom do they go to? The male or the female? Seeing as how they identify as female, we can assume they're going to the female restroom, right? So the same thing that you're accusing the Biden administration of, one of the same things that you're saying made the Biden administration a disaster, you yourself supporting. Because this individual, when in the public and have to use public restrooms, going in the same, a big hard back man, going into the same restroom with little girls and women. What have you to say to that? Because you're a bloody hypocrite. Hypocrite is what you are. But you see, when you want to pen things and not think before you write it, and realize that you're condemning your own self and highlighting your hypocrisy. But I continue. Drag queen shows in schools and libraries in front of kids. You could tell us where that happened? And is the Trump, if it did happen, is the Trump administration going to put a stop to it? So you're telling us between 2016 to 2020 that didn't happen, right? All right. Biological men participating in women's sports. Well, I think if we were to throw our minds back to the last Olympics last year, there were a few athletes who were identified as men who were participating in the women's sports. And if memory serves me correctly, the majority of them did not come from the United States of America. So are you therefore condemning or accusing the governments of these countries where these persons came from also of their administrations being a disaster? Are you accusing them of supporting these things? I just ask you. The slaughter of 18,000 children in Gaza. The slaughter of 18,000. And I heard this fool Padarat repeat that on the news last night. The talking points, because the Patons had to come out and support the leader. you know, when she in danger because she getting a good licking. And so all the Potongs had to come out, you know, to defend. But open the gate and all of them bust out and leave her to fend for herself. So Joe Biden's administration was responsible for the 18,000 children who died in Gaza, right? Because apparently Joe Biden's administration told Hamas back in October of 2023 to, out of the blue, attack Israel and to take 100 and something hostages. Apparently the Biden administration attempted to do that. That's what you're saying, right? That they were enabling Israel. But here it is that you have now, Donald Trump has put a man as the Secretary of State, one Marco Rubio, who is on record as having said he did not support a ceasefire. So you see the ceasefire that is currently ongoing, which is allowing or should have been allowing aid to get into Palestine and into Gaza, the much needed aid. Marco Rubio, based on his own statements, public statements, is not in support of that. He is saying he is not in support of any ceasefire, that Israel must press the advantage and get rid of Hamas once and for all. And even if that means 36,000 children need to die, then so be it. But whatever it takes, no ceasefire. Israel must press the advantage and get rid of Hamas once and for all. He has been confirmed as the next US Secretary of State. Right? The number one diplomat is saying that. Then the man that Donald Trump has put as the next ambassador to Israel, one Mike Huckabee, former Arkansas governor, he shares similar views. And he doesn't recognize no two-state nothing, right? No West Bank and all that. He not about that life. Because he is, a religious zealot. For those of you who may have seen his program that he has on TBN, right? A religious zealot. And he going strictly based on the Bible's description of certain things and what must happen with Israel and so on. So he is going there, again, to stoke fire. And Donald Trump is on record as having told Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, listen, notwithstanding the ceasefire, right, and the release of hostages and so on, if after all of that has taken place, we have all the hostages back, and if you decide, you know what, if you wake up one morning and say, listen, I feel I want to eliminate Hamas, we going back in, guess what? You will have my support and the support of the United States of America. He said that. Right? You will have my support. How would they have that support? Well, if you need military assistance from the US government, but Trump, no wars under me. Okay, really? You need weapons? No problem. You organize that for you too. But I'm just telling you now, if you want to go back in and start back something after the hostages have been freed and Hamas has no leverage, and you want to go back in and lick them up, hey, we got you. What is your views on that, Mrs. Prasad Bisasa? What are your views? Now, I want you to understand something. You can't take it back, right? You have already cleared your kinship to Donald Trump. And therefore, whatever he does between now and the end of his term on January 20th, 2029, we will link it to you because you support that. Do you support the pardons that he gave to over 1,500 persons who stormed the Capitol on January 6th, 2021, which resulted in the death of at least one police officer and the abuse of several others? Do you support his pardon of the head of the Proud Boys, which is a known racist white supremacist group? Do you support that? This man who was supposed to be serving 22 years in prison, having gone through due process as an attorney, you understand what due process is? That he would have faced a jury of his peers, he would have been found guilty and was sentenced to 22 years in prison for the role that he played in inciting persons to go down to the Capitol chanting, hang Mike Pence, who was still the Vice President of the United States. And that you have now even Republicans, ordinary Republican supporters and even Republican lawmakers have expressed their dismay and disappointment in Mr. Trump's decision to pardon these people on day one. He say, let me think about it, as we like to say in Trinidad, like Kusume. He didn't do that, you know. He made the promise, and soon as day one, within hours of him being sworn in, he was sitting in the Oval Office with a flurry of executive orders to sign, one of which was to grant pardons to all of these people. And when he was questioned, I think it was yesterday or the day before, if he supports persons attacking police officers, and he says he doesn't. And the follow-up question was, well, but you pardon persons who would have done such. And he said, well, if we pardon some people and we commuted the sentences of some others. And he said, well, no, but this individual who was charged and was serving time for attacking police officers, that you pardoned him. And he said, well, we got to take a look at it. The nonchalant way in which he approaches governance. Okay, pardon him. We'll take a look at that now and we'll see. But the pardon has already been granted. You'll take it back. Do you support that Prasad Bisesa? Well, whether you say yes or you say no, it doesn't matter. Your declared support for Donald Trump and his policies means that going forward, everything that he does, if the rest of the world disagrees with it, it's bolted to your chest that you support it. We don't want to hear nothing, no excuses. You support it. You are on record, right? You are complicit. So when it is that you have lawmakers from other countries, I saw a lawmaker from the Danish parliament, in fact, on Threads, where he was talking about, this plan Trump has about Greenland and so on. And the guy basically said, you know what, Trump, F you. In the parliament, he said that. F you, Donald Trump. Then you have one of the EU lawmakers and so on, stating something similar about, look, listen, we need to galvanize ourselves against this man for the next 4 years. And this is only day 4. Today is only day 4. And he has already angered so many parliamentarians around the world, except Kamla Prasad Bisesa, who continues to adore him. Right? What does that say about you? That you stand on the other side of history. So based on what you said, all those other parliamentarians from around the world, different countries and so on, who have expressed their consternation with Mr. Trump's just first few days in office. So you're trying to say that all of them wrong, right? You right, Trump right, and all the rest of them wrong. They just hated. They're just Trump haters. That's what they are. The president of Panama had to come out and tell Trump, listen, Panama belongs to us. We're not playing that game with you. All right? Relax yourself. All of a sudden, you just decide you want to come and use military force to take the Panama Canal. Where that come from? Just so? And you have Republican lawmakers who are willing to go along with anything that this man says. So, birthright citizenship, which 22 attorneys general from across the United States have already indicated their intention to sue, where this man is seeking to revoke the 14th Amendment, which gives citizenship to anybody born in the United States on U.S. soil, regardless of the immigration status of your parents. So if it is that you are in a plane, your mother in a plane, well, even though they don't normally allow, but let's say, she's in a plane, she goes into labor on the plane and you're in U.S. airspace. And if you're born on the plane, you are considered a citizen. Because all that is part of the United States. And now he's saying, so all them Chinese who like to, go and run up there and make my child. So he could be a U.S. citizen or she could be a U.S. citizen. Hold all your horses. They keep talking about you want to come to the United States, you need to come in legally. And the persons, refugees, not immigrants, refugees. These are people who are running from their own home countries because of whatever reason they're being persecuted, perhaps because they are deemed to be American sympathizers or whatever, especially from Afghanistan. Persons who would have gone through the process since the U.S. pulled out of Afghanistan, and who would have done the legal thing for all the paperwork, their appointments and so on, and were now mere days away from traveling to the United States, haven't been granted permission. Trump say, hey, hold up on that. All right. Well, they need to hold up on that for a while, right? Yeah, I'll revisit it sometime. Can't say when, but hold your horses. She goes on, gender pronouns, forced health mandates. What forced health mandates? She's talking about COVID and the vaccines, right? The same woman who encouraged the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to take the vaccine, the same woman who took the vaccine and take booster too, coming to talk now about forced health mandates. Really? When did they force anybody to take the COVID vaccine? Or perhaps they wanted them to take hydroxychloroquine and bleach and disinfectant. Yeah? The recommendations of the guy that you're in love with. Defunding the police. The removal of religion from schools. Says the woman who removed corporal punishment from schools. And today we see the outcome of that. Persecution of persons for holding their religious beliefs. What utter nonsense. Donald Trump has just reimposed the travel ban that he imposed on Muslims when he was in office the first time, which was removed. So allowing Muslims from wherever to come to the United States. He has now reimposed that Muslim ban. You hear her say anything about that? So therefore it can be assumed that she supports that. So when she comes here to talk nonsense about the removal of religion from schools and so on, miss us with that BS, please, Passad Bisesa. All right? Miss us with that, because he is discriminating against an entire religion. As the same religious group, I wonder what Saddam Hussein's position is on that. Does he support that, this Muslim ban? Because he's Muslim. So if it is that you all come back into office and he has to travel to the US because, let's say, you give him some big post, Attorney General or something like that, how is he going to feel traveling to the US that when he lands and they say, Pastor, you're Muslim? All right, okay. Stand on the side there for a moment. Please, somebody will come and take your passport and have a chat with you in the back. You're supporting that? And any other Muslim members of your parliamentary caucus and members of your party who identify as Muslim, how do they feel about that, knowing now that they're on a watch list? You're supporting that, don't complain. Tell them it's all part of the process, man. It's all good. Social media shadow banning. Two-tier justice system. Two-tier, the Lord Father. Weaponization of the judicial system against persons with opposing opinions. When you have the man who is now president of the United States stating that he would use his Justice Department to go after the enemies within, and the enemies within are not the immigrants. He identified who the enemies within are. People like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and Liz Cheney and all of these persons who would have challenged him and spoke out against him and so on. Persons who Joe Biden had to pardon so that they couldn't go after them. But you're talking about weaponization of the judicial system against persons with opposing opinions. What would have prompted Joe Biden's decision to pardon these people? Is this very same thing that Trump has stated he's going to do, and already things are in place to do so? Now they're talking about prosecuting Joe Biden because he didn't pardon himself. So Trump said, well, he was not a very bright person because he didn't pardon himself, which means he leaves himself open to be prosecuted. For what? For what? But you support that. Censorship of free speech. When you had the bishop who spoke at the inauguration in the church service that they had, and because she appealed to Trump to show mercy to the immigrants, not all immigrants are criminals and so on. So we ask you to show mercy to these people, some of these persons who are afraid based on the things that they've heard and the campaign promises that you have made. She didn't say those exact words, but she said there are persons who are afraid. Why are they afraid? Right? And she's appealing to him. She wasn't disrespectful. You could hear her voice crack as if she was almost nervous or afraid to say what she said, but she said it anyway. And what was Trump's response? He felt that she had a nasty tone and that it was not decent church service. And he's calling on her to apologize to him. Right? Apologize to him. Do you support that call for an apology, Prasad Bisesa? Censorship of free speech, high levels of inflation, crime, nepotism, and corruption. What corruption? You know what? You have a chief whip who is on $100 million bail for fraud, conspiracy, misbehavior in public office, sitting on right next to you. And chances are that you're probably going to give him your blessing so that he could contest the same seat again. But you want to talk about corruption, Prasad Bisesa? Here we are, almost 5 years later, still waiting to get a proper explanation as to why Barry Padarath gave you $135,000 in 2 checks that he can't remember giving you, why he gave you that money. Right? We're still waiting for some answers on that, some cogent answers, not the cock and bull story you gave us. But you want to talk about corruption? The fact that this man is supposed to be under police investigation for attempting to hide money in his mother's bank account and to hide money in his mother's life insurance policies. When the police called her, the mother, she refused to give any answers and so on. But you want to talk about corruption? You who, like Trump, had to fire almost your entire cabinet during your tenure. That's one of the things that you all have in common. Right? How many ministers? You fired more ministers than any other prime minister in this country. For what? Allegations of corruption. You forget live sport and all of these things that you had to do, but you have the audacity, the temerity, and the unmitigated gall to accuse the Biden administration of corruption. Well, Biden would have left office with the record that not one, he didn't have to fire a single member of his cabinet for being involved in corruption. Trump cannot say the same thing. How many of them, post leaving office, have been convicted, charged with crimes, convicted. Some of them serve jail time. Paul Manafort and people like this other one, Steve Bannon and all of these guys and others, his lead accountant, all these people who have served jail time, some of them still serving some jail time as well. But you want to come and accuse the Biden administration of corruption and give us the impression that Trump's administration was squeaky clean? Well, we know high levels of inflation, nepotism, and corruption. I made the point before. Trump just appointed his daughter-in-law as the next U.S. ambassador to Greece. He just appointed the father-in-law of his daughter, Ivanka, to be the next U.S. ambassador to France. What you call that? That's not nepotism. But as I said, all these things, people want common sense policies and equal opportunities based on merit, excellence, and intelligence, and are fed up of the woke far left. Nonsensical policies that are based on the use of identity politics, moral superiority, and division. People want to live, enjoy, and be happy without the state intruding on their personal space. My record will show that since 2020, I've been advocating against the woke far left extreme insanity. It's time for the world to move on from the insanity and the destructive, divisive policies of Joe Biden's Democrat administration. So she doubled down, tripled down, and quadrupled down on her foolishness. But people need to inform this woman of something. Even though Joe Biden is gone, we still have a U.S. embassy here, and we still have persons who would have been appointed by the Biden administration who are still here. You have federal employees of the United States who are at the embassy here, and because Joe Biden has gone doesn't mean that they leave too, because their jobs are not tied to the Biden administration, even though they would have gotten those jobs as under his administration, right? Trump has now removed DEI, policies, so therefore persons who may have been hired under such, right now they are in limbo. They don't know the status of their jobs, right? So who might have a mortgage and stuff to pay? These persons, some of them I'm sure would have voted for him and never expected that, and now find themselves in the position. But you know what they say, FAFO, FAFO. That's one of the going acronyms in the US now. F around and find out, and plenty of them finding out now, right? But in the interest of time, let me just play here quickly. As I told you all, as is to be expected, when Queen Clown is being admonished, when Queen Clown is being challenged, it's only a matter of time before the pothounds and the village idiots come out to support her, right? And right on cue, we had that. I'm not going to play the whole thing. Don't worry. Can't do that. We don't have time for that this morning. So I wouldn't put you all through that torture, but let me get it here. One second.
What it is I really hearing here in Trinidad and Tobago? What is outgoing and incoming? How can someone criticizing an outgoing administration be causing a diplomatic faux pas when there's an incoming administration that is opposed dramatically to the outgoing executive, the outgoing president, vice president, the outgoing leadership of the USA? How exactly is that a diplomatic faux pas to support and congratulate the incoming president on specific issues? I see a lot of you condemning Kamla Persad-Bissessar in general for supporting or congratulating Donald Trump and criticizing Joseph Biden, former president. One man even went as far as to say, but you never know, Joe Biden might come back as president at 82 plus 4, 86, and it's not a solid 86 like Tanti down in Tarnage who walking and running and jogging and all kind of thing. He's not a very sturdy 82. He had to withdraw from an election because his cognitive abilities were not at its peak. But let me ask you all this question. Since some are not all, a few of all, they want to jump down Kamla throat. Even some just come politicians who now jump in politics 3 years and feel them as an expert, that they go into school. Kamla Persad-Bissessar, a former prime minister, a leader of the opposition, a former attorney general, former minister of education, an MP, for over 30 years that he who never do nothing, don't even know what it is to sit in a cabinet or smell cabinet coffee, going to school, Kamla Prasad about diplomacy and diplomatic relations. Let me tell you all something and be very careful and clear. Keith Christopher Rowley and Stuart Smallpin Maduro Delcy Rodriguez as Astrobal Chavez have put Trinidad and Tobago in harm's way because the Biden administration was moving soft with a dictator, a narco-terrorist, a narco-trafficker by easing up sanctions and allowing possible miscreants to take Trinidad and Tobago into direct negotiations. Over 13 times Smallpin went back and forth spending 1.2 million of your dollars to go and meet hush-hush with Maduro, a man who has stolen an election, a man who has oppressed his people so much that 8 million Venezuelans have fled the country away from this narco-terrorist, money laundering trafficker, drug trafficker, dictator who just stole an election. 85% of the results show that he lost 2-1. And he just tell his family and them say, I win, and swear in himself. Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, Elon Musk on international relations and foreign relations are vehemently opposed to the Maduro narco-trafficking regime.
So, what's supposed to be a big hardback man behaving like a little boy, a petulant little child, and talking about Nicolas Maduro stole elections and the 85% of the results show that he lose 2-1. And therefore, Trump administration must come down on Maduro because he's a dictator and whatnot. So what is Vladimir Putin? Vladimir Putin, who has been accused of rigging elections, stealing elections time after time after time, right? Time after time, all kind of thing that he do put himself when he couldn't serve again as when he had reached the limit, the number of terms, he flipped and he put Dmitry Medvedev to serve as president, and then he became prime minister, which allowed him to contest the position of president again at the end of that term. And since then, what have we seen? Political opponents have been jailed, have been killed. Alexei Navalny and others, right? Navalny's wife, who is now in exile because if she comes back home to Russia to take off where he left off, she's likely to find herself in a similar situation, killed. But yet still, Trump embraces Putin. If that isn't hypocrisy, I don't know what is. Where are the sanctions? The Biden administration would have placed sanctions against Russia because of these things, which sanctions Donald Trump is inclined to remove because Putin is his boy, his good pal, his buddy, right? But no issues. This clown, this bald-headed lout has no issues with that. No issues with that. But the same Putin is good friends with the same Maduro. So we will see how that will play out. If it is that Trump decides to flex his muscles against Venezuela, what is Mr. Putin going to say? Because remember, Russia has economic interests in Venezuela. They have some level of ownership with respect to certain gas entities and oil entities in Venezuela. So we will see when Mr. Trump intends to drill, baby drill. And he said, well, we don't need Venezuela oil because we have enough oil here and we have our own oil, as the case may be, without giving consideration to what that would do to oil prices. And therefore, you're shooting yourself in the foot, you're stabbing yourself in the back. But common sense, anyway. So that was Village Idiot number 1. Let me play a little bit of Village Idiot number 2. Snower. Right. I don't play much because it's already 7:54. I don't want to end up in the same situation as the other day when, I had to run off. But let me just get this.
This one coming from when my grandfather first came, the Maracas Valley in St. Joseph. About 4 or 5 videos ago, I warned Trinidad and Tobago that Trump wasn't playing around. He was intent on regime change in Venezuela. So said, so done. Kamla Prasad Bisasa, recognizing that Keith Rowley and Stuart Young put Trinidad and Tobago in a diplomatic hole that can have overwhelming economic consequences on our people, she did what she had to do, which is to let Trump know we're with him. Now, we have plenty of things that Trinbagonians will find negative or positive. But what I know is that as a people, we are more socially conservative than we are liberal. That is a fact. Our Christian population, our Muslim population, our Hindu population, and all the others, we are more socially conservative than we are socially liberal. And I can tell you, people were not happy with Biden. They were not happy with this male, female, and all the extras. They weren't happy. They might not have said something, but they were not happy. And that is just a fact. Also, we were not happy with over 36, close to 36,000. Now, KPB say conservatively 18,000 children. But a lot of reports coming out that it's closer to 36,000 children have been killed in Gaza. When you add the women, double that, close to 72,000 people. All these conservative figures, you're talking about all those who have been missing for months. They don't count them. But the other tongue, you know they died. Under that rubble, under that bombing, they died. So a lot of people in Trinidad were not happy. And Kamla, reading the mood, the global mood, protected Trinidad and Tobago. That's what she did. So when you hear Amy Bong and them, who can only stand up hard for man, they can't stand up for woman because they leave Penelope Beckles to swing in the breeze. Foster Cummins, all of them who like to sing and dive and jive and shock, like some house Negroes. What they do when it was time to protect Penelope Beckles, all of them fall up like 2 cents shorty. All of them. LaHunt, Foster Cummins, Amy Bong. I don't care if he's an elected MP or not, he can stand up. All of them. And then they want to come up now against Kamla with all kind of words, obsequious and inept. I thought they were describing themselves. They have never stood up for anything other than the 1%. Kamla stood up for what she knew was right. She mentioned about the women and children in Gaza being slaughtered before anyone else did in Trinidad and Tobago. She spoke about Venezuelan children being in the school system before anyone else did.
That message brought to you there by the UNC Association of Men with No Testicles, right? I'm surprised that he doesn't have a more high-pitched voice. Yeah, because he's one of them who capitulated, and while he's talking about Amy Brown and them, they could only stand up hard for man. You can't even do that, right? I wonder if she gives you all visitation rights for your testicles so you could remember what it looks like. Did she allow you all to take a picture? You know, so when you're missing it, you can say, oh, yes. Once upon a time, kids, your father used to have testicles, but then I decided to go into politics under the banner of the United National Congress. And one of the requirements is that you have to surrender your testicles for your period of servitude. Hence the reason why from time to time you would see my voice would go up in a high-pitched note, because I have no testicles. But I have a picture if you want to see it. Plenty of other men in the UNC, same thing. Same thing. You come and talk a pack of nonsense and cannot defend what she did. And I had to talk about Keith Rowley and Stuart Young. Deal with the issue at hand, what your leader is saying. The issue, I said, this has nothing to do with the substance or the validity of the points that she made, most of which is incorrect, but more so the propriety or the impropriety of her making that statement because of the position that she holds. But she got 2 senators to come and jump out themselves and repeat the same nonsense. Right? 2 senators to come and repeat the same nonsense. I just let them remind them that the US keeps archives, right? Let me just get one more here before I open the lines. So the transgender hairstylist and the member of parliament from Princestown who has a question mark over his head with regards to his sexuality, both decided to come out in defense. So it's the Pottongs and the village idiots came out yesterday. Right? So let me just get at here quickly. Joel D'Souza and just now, let me get this here. Joel D'Souza, Barry Padera defend Kamla's woke criticisms. So I was looking at Joel D'Souza last night on CNC3 and looking at he, she, they, trying to defend the indefensible, you know, trying to espouse UNC logic, better known as donkey logic. Didn't do a very good job. Kamla would have been disappointed. Use the opportunity instead to praise Kamla and talk about, you know, she's anyway. Trinidad and Tobago's first transgender senator, Joel D'Souza, has defended opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessa's criticism of former US President Joe Biden. Let me just get this here. Forgive me, let me just get this here, folks. Right. That's no. Yeah, US President Joe Biden's policies, particularly on gender reassignment surgeries for children. Persad-Bissessa described Biden's administration as a disaster, citing concerns about children undergoing gender reassignment surgery, biological men using women's restrooms, and the promotion of drag shows in schools. Speaking to CNC3 News, D'Souza said she agreed with Persad-Bissessa, emphasizing, gosh, yeah. Okay, folks, give me 1 second, please. I will take calls shortly. But when you call it, it interrupts the feed on my devices because all of my Apple devices are linked. So I have to keep going in to get back into YouTube. So let's give me 2 minutes. Speaking to CNC3 News, D'Souza said she agreed with Persad-Bissessa, emphasizing the importance of psychiatric support before children make life-altering decisions. Again, I make the point. No student could go and do any life-altering surgery without the consent of their parents. They're on folly and foolishness when they come up with this dotish talk. I went through that surgery and it is something I was not sure about. Children should never make such decisions without proper psychiatric support. I am certain they would not listen anyway. She added the world is not ready for a third gender. Really? Joel D'Souza, you saying that? Children at the age of 9, 10, or 7 should not have parents deciding for them. They need to reach an age where psychiatrists can assess them after years of support and determine if it's the right decision. D'Souza said many parents in TNT take children abroad for reassignment surgery due to the lack of local laws. She conducts gender-related classes where families discuss these issues in a safe place. I wonder if Kamla Persad-Bissessa is aware of that. It's a difficult situation when a child has to navigate school with a gender issue. Gender concerns are global and we must address them, she said, calling for a child gender affairs department. D'Souza also supported former US President Donald Trump, who has said there are only 2 genders. Which one do you identify as? Because you're both people saying one thing and anyway. In TNT, D'Souza said her use of female restrooms has not caused a problem. So we know which restroom she uses, right? It hasn't caused a problem, but it is a problem for your political leader who has an issue with big hardback men, which is what you are, notwithstanding your gender reassignment surgery. You're a big hardback man, all right? So whatever it is that you may have between your legs, your both people say you're a big hardback man, all right? What you have there is artificial. So I continue. Whether the Prime Minister's residence or in the Senate, she said, I was always welcome. Interesting. Well, welcome by whom? Because Persad-Bissessa has a problem with big hardback men sharing the same restrooms with women and little girls. Princestown MP Barry Paderat supported Persad-Bissessa's criticism of Biden. The Biden administration facilitated extreme positions. The landslide victory of President Trump shows the American people shared that view. Really? He got 77 million votes. Kamala Harris got 75 million votes. And for the want of about 240 more votes spread across Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, she would have been the president today. Yeah, when you look at the margin of victory in those 3 states, that's all she needed. 240,000 more, and she would have been the president. But nevertheless, Paderat urged calm, noting constitutional safeguards exist to protect minorities. And look who they went and asked. Why did the media go to ask Paderat and Joel D'Souza, of all people? There's a one person missing that they didn't go to, right? Who also has a question mark over his head. But why they went to Paddy? Are they trying to show up the man, or the man has never confessed? We have our suspicions, but he has never said yes. So what are they trying to do? Pop the man? Okay. Anyway. Anyway, boy, never a dull moment with these people, eh? But folks, we will treat that a little more on Sunday. All right, and we will discuss other things. Um, so let me just take a call here. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Morning, sir.
Yes, thank you. Every year, when the FCA results come out,
Mm-hmm.
the UNC, led by Kamla, and all of that, they're very proud to laud the achievements of their young children, little girls, little young children, girls and boys,
Mm-hmm.
who excel and who most times come first and second in the FCA exams. So on the one hand, they are proud of the achievements of their little Indian children. Okay, right now, how is it that a few years ago, when the former Attorney General, Farid Al-Rali, piloted a bill in the Senate outlawing child marriage, how is it that the very opposition leader took it upon herself to arrange for an imam and a pundit to go to the Senate to argue against the child marriage bill?
Mm-hmm.
How is that?
Mm-hmm.
That this is part of our culture. Culture. They take behind this fig leaf of culture, right? And that is unfair. You're interfering with our culture and our traditions and so on and so on. So the imam and the pundit just pick up the purse and just decide they're going in the Senate as temporary senators.
Mm-hmm.
No. They must have been summoned by and allowed to do what they did by the opposition leader.
Mm-hmm.
This is the lady who's coming today to talk about how much children and little girls in the toilet with big men and this and that and the other. Justify for me.
That was my sister!
Yeah, on the one hand, you're praising the excellent performance of your little children in the rural areas who come first and second and third in the SBA. But you allow an imam and a pundit to go to the Senate to argue against the stopping of child marriage. The same little 10, 11, 12-year-old girls who have been known to be shunted off to big men 30, 35, 40 as wives, as little babies, as young wives. Suddenly you now love children, you love little girls in the toilet. How come? How come? Put the two things together for me. You're boasting on the one hand about the achievements of our youngsters in the FCA exams. But on the next hand now, on the other side of your mouth, you're looking to stop the legislation, to stop little girls being deflowered and thrown into the clutches of big, old, nasty, hard black men. That's okay with you? That is why you see I pay almost no attention to anything that woman says, except for the fact that I feel I have a moral obligation as an adult to say something about it. It's not just an inconsistency, it's a damn downright hypocrisy and dishonesty. This is dishonesty I can't take. You, in your budget response, you talk about high-ranking PNM people as pedophiles and so on and so on. Madam Inspector, look at the constituency between Kokie Village and Mayaro. And that should answer all your questions about little children and their welfare and giving them a chance to flower and develop and get an education and not be interfered with the big, nasty, old, hardback, twisted morality men who just want to feed their own fantasy. You know what I'm talking about. And everybody in Trinidad, including Jasoza Ramkalawan, everybody knows what I'm talking about and who I'm talking about. Because it would seem that while on the one hand, you talk about moral values and morals for little children, and especially young girls and boys and so on and so on. On the other hand, there's a tendency to condone it. to condone the nastiness. Just as over the years, there's always been a conflict in the UNC and its leadership there's a very fine line between morality and immorality and dishonesty. That is the thing I have with the UNC. And let me close by just saying this. Since you are such a converted big lover of Donald Trump, just remember, Madam Bissessa, just bear this very well in mind. Bear this well in mind that a lot of your people, your Indian people who live in these states, are not straight. The business not straight. And since Trump has already said that he's on a major program to send back illegal migrants, the populations of Cuba and Tabaquite and Princeton and so on and so on should be fattened when he begins his purge of many people who look like you. Then he begins to send them back. No ball. He himself said when he was president the last time, he described the people from this part of the world, Africa, India, Central and South America, and the Caribbean, as coming to the States and coming from whole countries. So what, you feel he love you? You feel he love you, Bissessa? You feel he love people who look like you? No. He sees them just as he views all minorities in the United States. So all your people, and I know as a factor, I ain't asking you, I know as a factor, many Indians, Ms. Bissessa, who worked in the Trump campaign, doing clerical activities, helping him to get into power. And I know a lot of them business not straight. So when you get the backlash in your tail, take it there. But as a close, you should be the last person to talk about proper behavior in public office and harboring people of twisted morality. Look at who you have 2-3 seats to your left going down the front bench. And that should answer everything that I am saying this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The UNC by the party of hypocrisy. And they continue to demonstrate that on a daily basis. So now let me just switch up this thing here. Let me get this here. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, darling. How are you?
I am good.
Kamla want conductive, a bit of blue, a wheelbarrow, a light and
Just go back here.
a man. You see what is that? The gender. You see the hips? Right? I watched the time show. By the hips, you know male or female. Women have wide hips to carry babies. Men don't. So what is Joel did? Hospital. Stand tight. Not been covered. You need to know. You had a man who might have a penis still. Who knows? What's up, and he was the so-called, Kamla party have 10 knockoff dolls. The Barbie dolls? Political 10 knockoff dolls. They can walk naked in a harem of women. No way it would take place. No way for the pregnancy will take place. Kamla told the speech to Joe Biden, right? Stolen speech. She told one for the Queen and somebody else, right? She told speeches. Educated. Really? No, you can get an idea of somebody, but you can make it yours. Not make it yours, but get an idea. That's progression. Okay. You're back. You and Brandon Ryan was Majora's heir. He was the best thing since sliced bread. You shook Majora's hand. How now you need to pass wind by upper behind. That's why, you know, government even can be myself are trying so hard in 2025 to behave like a prayer. Once in a while, my mouth wants to get a mad woman. I can got myself ladylike on the air. So, Kamla, darling, what in heaven's name is wrong with you? You have two tongues, Kamla. Because for Eid, you're Muslim. For Easter, you're Christian. Then you are Baptist and Hindu, Kamla. So apparently, you have four beliefs in religion. You have four brains. And none is connected. Kamla, darling, on behalf of us all who voted you out in 2020, please go your way. And Cam, darling, one more thing, the leader of the opposition, Carrie come out of the coming to observe our election. Should you lose, darling, would you blame them? Would you accuse EDC of thieving elections once again? Now, hence, Cam, now you are into it again. You want them. EDC was a darling. You're whining. EDC, yes, you're so good. You're uprighteous. You're almost God. You're the best thing forever. But when you lost, you was a demon. It says much about you, how incompetent you are to lead. Kamla, you know my phone number? Call me, Kamla. But I want US dollars. And I want a new deep freeze and a washing machine for size and a big, big fridge. Put up to them. I want pork. I like pork. If you have no pork, don't show up, eh? But don't seriously. She does pick a leader.
Yes.
Kamla doesn't have a mind of her own. But Joel agree with Kamla. You agree that she's against you too, right? No, work is wrong, but Joel, Kamla's work for you. Now she rescinds her work attitude for you. Should she win Uncle Joe with him penis, the man with the breast, that Joel, you can breastfeed a child? Can you breastfeed? No, men get breast cancer once in a while, eh?
Yes.
But Joe, I'm going to tell you, when your breast defeat, what happened then? Or they hang by it too. I went to work to get pump again, that gas station. Well, Kamla doesn't want you in Parliament, you know. Where are you going to go? Right? Because now she's on a madman called Trump's side. Well, where are you going to go with that? You can't go away. And last point, Asian Ishmael, remember? You cannot go to the state for help, eh? Can't. You know why? You're Muslim. All Muslims are not bad, eh? It's in protection of every religion and race across the land. Asian Ishmael, be here. Donald, go on, have a good day, bye-bye.
You too. Thank you. Let me get this here. So let me just do this here. Jenny.
Hi, morning, Dominic.
Morning.
Want to also look down and tune into Factor 7 things. No, Anna Roberts Sunday, who to me I consider them weak men, naked Anna Roberts. Most of the men in the UNC, that's my opinion. They're trying to sell to us that Kamla Prasad is this strong woman. But if you have to do everything based on lies, deceit, con-man-like behavior, charlatan behavior, again, it's my opinion, that will make you a strong person. Because if you have to win people's support by not telling the truth, always gaslighting, that shows that you do not have the character and strength to be a true self. You always have to live by deceit, and that is how I see the UNC and Kamla Prasad, etc. And the people around her. So she's supporting Donald Trump, and they're saying she's doing that to protect us. But let's make her even more weaker. Could mean to say you would bow to anybody. So it could be a child molester, and to, because it's a person in position to get favors from them, you'll pretend that you like men or women who molest children. That's basically what they're doing, you know, in reverse. So Trump says he only recognizes two genders, male and female. Kamla says she agrees with him, and she disagrees with the way the Biden administration was going. But who is more woke than the UNC? Because Kamla says in history in this country, when she brought into our Senate the first transgender. What is a transgender? Somebody was either male, then operation to be a female, and vice versa. Isn't that what Donald Trump is speaking about, that he does not recognize? Whether or not your pipe turn into a drain, the thing is your birth paper and your ID card will still show that your gender was male. Isn't that what Donald Trump is against? So just like the arsonist who said us go back to the scene of the fire, and always so helpful. Kamla Patel-Bissessar is on a rampage against the Biden administration because of the woke, she said, the ideology. And who jumped out to support her? Two people who we could assume is a part of the woke movement.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So again, I'm saying Kamla Patel-Bissessar can't speak to us about that. Because in 2012, she was promising the rainbow community she's going to fight for the rights when she was prime minister. So again, Kamla is weak. And if they have to paint her as a strong individual, she's bowing at everything that comes her way like a rolling stone. She has no ideology. She just goes with the flow. That is why the US will always remain a chaotic and a government or a party that can never hold on to power for long. They do not have a strong foundation. They just go with the wind. If today is soup, we go in with soup, or they don't like soup. If tomorrow is bhaji, whether we like it or not, we go into it because we want to appease people. So they like to rule by the populist vote, be popular, so we make decisions that are popular and at the time. So again, this is another example why people ought not to even consider Kamla Patel-Bissessar or the UNC to run this country. Because the same firmness they like Donald Trump for is the same weakness you don't like them for. And just to add on this, I don't know if Barry Paradise and they realize that in Trump's eye, they are minorities. You don't consider them. So you could suck up to him now forever, whether it's skin color, light or not, you are considered a minority in his eyes. So you will not get favor. You will get him looking at you and going, oh my God, yes, coming to my parlor. He do not consider you all. That's what he considers Mexicans and blacks. He considers Indians, unfortunately. It's not the right thing. So all that Kamla doing to promote herself and the UNC, it will come to naught. So let's stop gaslighting, stop putting fear in people, because that's the only way you can rule. And that's why I say, you're weak, not fit for no office in this country, not fit to lead a country where young people are looking for something exciting, something new. And you know where they're seeing that? I'm not just about excitement and new, you know. They're seeing that in the People's National Movement, who has revolutionized things again, just as they did when they came into office in 1956. And the legislature back at that time said, before the PNN came into office or into being as a political party, Trinidad especially was in chaos and bacchanal confusion. They stabilized the country. And again, we see in the PNN being revolutionary, not in education, not in energy, because it wasn't for Dr. Eric Williams. Although the businessmen in South, that included Montano and some others, would have come up with the idea for point visas. If Dr. Eric Williams and the PNM did not buy into it, because they take it over wholesale, because these businesses weren't able to raise the money to finance those projects. If the PNM government took over the whole thing, did the feasibility study, and today we have point visas, And we see where that has happened. It has made that area there, people living there instant millionaires by driving up the property value, by encouraging them to get into business. And we see the result of that, the energy sector, that we continue to try the petrochemical. That is a PNM government that bought in the idea that businessmen had. And they funded it, they took over the whole situation. Those are the things the PNM has done. With the pan, for years we have been complaining, saying it's our own and people teaching it, and we bring it and we create it, which is true. What did Dr. Rowley do? He made it the national instrument of Trinidad and Tobago, so there's no doubt. What have they done again? They encourage the manufacturing sector with the pan. Where now the chrome company that have burned down, they have been given a grant to start back again. The pan manufacturers have been given grants. So now when they make the pan, they don't have to ship it abroad to the chrome and bring it back. They send it right up somewhere in the east, the chrome factory, everything being done here. Men who making steel pan, men who making the sticks, all have work in that whole area, the steel pan manufacturing sector. We see the non-energy sector is being boosted now. The manufacturing sector is pulling the weight. They will get even stronger. But you're not just simply reliant alone on the energy sector. The manufacturing sector, the non-energy sector is pulling the weight and will continue to do. Those is what the People's National Movement brings to this country. Universal education for all. Barbados and them was there, and yes, they like to hear when I talk about Barbados and FEM Hossain. And all the rest of them, they were there when the PNM came into office. Despite the fact that Barbados would have built schools, the schools were to sit for no children to go and study. It was just shed. And that is why we term cowshed, because it was looking like cowshed. All galvanized and board and all that. But he had a vision, just like the South businessmen, but he didn't have the money. And what Dr. Williams did on the PNM, they came in and assisted these Hindu schools and all the church schools to build proper schools, and then went further, education for all. So that Kamla could start the stress on her children and those before her could be taken out of the rice fields where the mother used to send them and the father used to send them, take them out of the sugarcane field where the mother and father used to send them and get them into schools where they could get a proper education. The PNM went even further. They hired inspectors to go down over the Caroni Bridge to make sure the little Indian girls and boys are not in the cage, not in the rice field, but in schools taking education. The PNM went even further. They had school feeding program 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and making sure that they use the agricultural products that the Indians were growing, the bhaji, the pumpkin, and everything, incorporated into the school feeding program so that children would get meals to eat, nutritious meals to eat. It even goes further. It was reported that only on the days when they see the food was being shared, that a lot of the Indian children would come out. And it's 6 of them, they take 6 boxes of food, they take one, they share it among themselves, and they carry home the food, the nutritious food, not just bhaji and rice, but the chicken and the goat and the beef and all that, so the parents could eat. So it's so instrumental, the People's National Movement has always been in the development of this country. So when you're going to vote this year, whatever time it is, make sure that you remember the history of the People's National Movement. Make sure you remember that if you want stability, because one of the old states, Duffy, what's his name? Oh gosh, that short man, Rodney Charles. He said it himself. The only party to take care of the morass, mayhem, is the People's National Movement. So realize that and know what's at stake. And again with Minister Stuart Young leading us into victory for 2025. That is a winning match right there. We thank again Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. I always call him a transformational leader. And while he playing chess, everybody playing draft. And again, he has shown me a chess move in his selection, his personal selection. And at the end of the day, the other members of Parliament, they would have agreed, and the General Council agreed that Minister Stuart Young will lead us into victory. And you see how the children are gravitating to him. You see how the people are gravitating to him. There's excitement, there's a renewed vibe, because you know the PNM continue to set the pace of what a premier political party looks like. So people, the evidence is there, the information is there. You bringing it, Google bringing it, everybody bringing it, people on social media bringing it, or they don't watch those things and not remember history. Because it's the people who fail, okay, that's my way, people who fail to recognize or know the history are doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past. Do not repeat the mistakes of 2010, where our country went nowhere for 5 years. Look at the history of the People's National Movement, understand the presence and the development of infrastructure, everything in this country, and go resoundingly for all the candidates from Niaro up in deep east to straight down to Caranage, down south, I know geography, but down south of 24, so come back down, and the East-West Corridor, go resoundingly for all the People's National Movement candidates to make sure they have the majority of seats in the parliament, so they don't have to depend on a worthless, wicked, and evil opposition as the UNC to make legislation in the interest of Trinidad and Tobago, all races, because our anthem says, side by side we stand, every creed and race. And Dr. Williams said, there's no matter China, no matter India, no matter Africa, no matter Syria, no matter Lebanon, all we have is Trinidad and Tobago mother, and a mother does not discriminate against her children. And Minister Stuart, that Chinese Indian man, he is one of our children, and we will not discriminate when it's time to vote. We know what we're doing. Stuart on the ground, we on the ground with you, and we do it like that. Team PNM, Team Unity, and it's our love at the end of the day. Thank you, Dominic. Thanks for your lecture.
Thank you, Jen. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Hello. Hello. Mr. Chance. Hello.
Hello, good morning, Dominic.
Morning, sir.
Yes, good. Very good. Nice program again this morning, and I see your numbers continue to grow, Dominic, and that is excellent. A lot of people getting in to get the information.
Correct.
I want to first of all thank Mr. Yates and all the callers, and Jenny in particular. I want to thank Mr. Yates for pointing out the political hypocrisy of Kamla Bisesa and the business about children. I want to thank Jenny for giving us that information with respect to what the PNM has done. So I'm just going to focus on two things. I'm going to focus on two areas, and I'm going to say why I'm focusing on that is that reckless and perhaps intoxicated comment by Kamla Bisesa puts into focus why we must go to the polls and vote for the Honorable Stuart Young leading the PNM in this year. Let me say it again. That reckless and perhaps intoxicated comment by the opposition leader gives us ample time and reason for us to know when we go to the polls, we're going to vote for the Honorable Stuart Young and the PNM. And I'll tell you why, But before I do so, let me just remind the people this. That the next election in the United States is in 2028. 2024 to 2028. The next in Trinidad and Tobago, our election is this year and it ends in 2030. What will happen to Trinidad and Tobago if in 2028 the government of the United States changes back to the Democrats? Huh? You understand that? Let me say it again. In 2028, there may be a new administration, maybe the Democrats. Listen, did you hear what Kamla Bisesa said? United States is our #1 trillion partner. What will happen to us? I just put that out. So let me go quickly on to this business about foreign policy. And this is important, Very important to understand the stark difference between that leadership and the leadership of the PNM. What is the foreign policy of Trinidad and Tobago since Dr. Williams? And let me remind you about that. It is the non-intervention in the internal affairs of other countries. That is since Dr. Williams And we have benefited economically from that. And that's my interest, you know. How is Trinidad and Tobago going to survive? Non-intervention, we go, no better into this business. That is the reason why Dr. Oli says he knocks the door of Venezuela. And that is why Kamla Persad-Bissessa's statement is reckless, because she's interfering in the internal affairs of a country. The second one, we are saying that we have to have close relationships with CARICOM. Those are the two primary things in foreign policy, you know. And you know, Kamla Persad tried to mash up CARICOM. Dr. Oli had to go to Jamaica and fix things. Else that whole CARICOM business, you know what have happened? We've been losing billions of dollars in trade from CARICOM. That CSME, that CSME arrangement has economic benefits for Trinidad and Tobago. So if we lose those interests in CARICOM, we're losing billions of dollars. And that's my point. The same thing with foreign policy with Dr. Williams. Dr. Williams did not interfere when the rest of the world had China outside of the group. Dr. Williams had relationships with China. That is the reason why today we have that great relationship with China. It started since Dr. Williams. Non-intervention. Mandela said the same thing. When they asked Mandela, what he says, he looks for his interest. And that's what Dr. Williams is doing. So that's the point I'm making with foreign policy. Now let me go to the second one, which is diplomacy. And you listen to Kamla Persad-Bissessa. You listen to a gentleman who's international relations, and he said that comment from Kamla Persad-Bissessa, right? This comment is going to tantamount to bring great trouble for Trinidad and Tobago in the future. Dr. Gonzalez, not the PM, but another Dr. Gonzalez with the United, who is into international relations. And let me tell you why I'm saying that. What is diplomacy? Every country stands solidly on the question of diplomacy. And diplomacy is the ability to communicate and maintain good relationships with other people. Look at Stuart Young, the Honorable Stuart Young. His diplomacy in going to Venezuela, negotiating with Venezuela, going to Japan, going to Dr. Rowley to countries all over the world, exercising diplomacy, maintaining good relationships. The other thing about diplomacy is the ability to negotiate agreements and settle disputes. You hear that? Diplomacy, negotiate agreements. What do you know about Stuart Young with that? You can't remember you went to Japan? You can't remember you went to Venezuela? You can't remember you went to a country, you went to the United States? Settling agreement, settling dispute, negotiation skills. And what about the other part? Safeguard the country's political and economic interests. That is what diplomacy is all about. To safeguard the country's political and economic interests. And that's what it's all about. Safeguarding, making sure that we're not interfering in the country's business, but we're protecting our economic interests, where we are going to get the money to run our country and put food on our table. Those are the important things in diplomacy. And that is why, as far as I'm concerned, when you look at the leadership of Kamla Persad-Bissessa and the leadership now of the Honorable Stuart Young, you see what I'm talking about when I talk about foreign policy and when I talk about diplomacy. And that is those big words, big talking, but it has something to do with your finding the foundation for the economy of your country. Diplomacy and foreign policy has something to do with the economy of your country. And the economy of your country has something to do with your standard of living. And that's why there are consequences if countries do not have a sound foreign policy and a sound diplomatic leader who can go about and exercise all these conversations in a way that will bring people together. And that's my contribution for this morning. And that's the reason why, as a citizen, when I look at the Honorable Stuart Young, SP, and I look at Kamla Persad-Bissessa, I am seeing two different leaders. One leader that is following the foreign policy that was established by the founding father, and another leader who is just all about the place, making reckless, intoxicated comments. And that is why this morning I encourage all the citizens, when you go to the polls this year, to exercise your vote in respect of the PNM led by the Honorable Stuart Young. Thank you very much, Governor.
Thank you, sir. Come on, what happened there? Okay, let's see. I don't know what happened there just now. So let me see here. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Dominic.
Morning, sir.
Dominic, what Kamla get around says, as the official opposition leader and the election just come up, so she's prime minister in waiting. And she was a prime minister before. Those utterances doesn't benefit me. It doesn't benefit the wider national society. In most of our supporters. Because as Kamla, if Kamla becomes, and God forbid, if Kamla becomes prime minister, she also will have to have a state as chairman of Caribbean. This Kamla besides speaking for the Caribbean. Because you're talking about a lot of challenges that the Caribbean have, and right now on the table, they're dealing with the Senate in America concerning economic situations, the movement of people. There are a lot of issues that they're dealing with, and you would need the support of the both sides of the house to get certain things done. So when Kamla playing herself in a hole, how she's going to talk with the Biden administration? Even if Biden leaves and he's going to retire, he's gone. She has painted the parties in such a bad way that I don't think senators would want to have anything much to do with Kamla for services. They are strictly business and talking about the eyes are crossed, and your eyes are blessed, sorry, and the things are good. Because there's nothing much for them to give or to attract the United States to increase anything in the Caribbean and Trinidad and Tobago, that they would need us and they would give us certain things. You have to have a certain amount of diplomacy. Kamla doesn't have that. On top of that, she continues to make confusion with the vice president. And when you play the idea with David Naked, they are so done. Because they're pushing the agenda around the people and figuring people. That dragon gas deal that had been signed and agreed, you never put that the Americans and them had the largest say about it. And they would never tell you that Dr. Rowley and Sir John had was to meet with the Senate to iron all the arrangements of the sanction, the do's and not to do's. So when the Senate agreed and they come up with anything and they give us that this is the rules we must follow if we have to throw with each other, and that's what with Venezuela. It was also done with the sanction of the Donald Trump administration, who was in the opposition at the time. And at that time when that was going on there, Trump had came back and picked back over the party. So when Daniel Robertson came up to serve the system, David Market and the likes of all the brothers and them telling us about the sanction and the American to take back the sanction and the sanction and the sanction. If you sign on a dotted line on a contract like that, it's very rarely they will change that. Jim, you need to know. Look at certain things, and I think Donald Trump may look at certain things in it, but I don't think as a businessman, Donald Trump is to let what I did. Because I saw Donald Trump probably have shares into Shell, in BP. He's a businessman. And when his account managers and their managers his account and he's buying his shares and here and there, they look at shares that is doing well. And on top of that, who are the largest buyer of natural gas to Trinidad and Tobago? United States. So the gas will also benefit the United States. The United States is stupid. Right? And the market is publicly calling me names of narcotics criminal or when they anything. I said, he gonna sit down in the Senate? He's going to sit down in the Senate and Robert someone. And I'm asking this question, who is going to discuss the arrangement of the gas deal or Kamla personal business? And she needs to tell us that. Is she going to shut down the gas deal and pull out? When she, if God forbid she becomes prime minister, that's a serious question to be put towards Kamla personal business because she keep calling sanctions on Trinidad and Tobago from there ever since. So is she, what she's going to do? Is she going to pull out the gas deal? And two, what he said of money spending promises that they're giving the public, we're going to raise our revenue from because you intend to cut taxes. Cut taxes, cut the gas deals, no to property tax, no to this, no to that, increase the social welfare budget because they're going to bring back all these other dotations about baby grant and this grant and that grant and Eddie grant and all kind of grants you're going to bring back. We get that money from. There's only lies and you can see it because she says one thing and then another thing. She put Joella into the parliament through the Senate and praise it. I'm not thinking now she make a total 360-degree turn on people like that. And then Joel coming now to tell me that if he had known better, he would have do what he do. But he's proud to be what he is. All of them lying, you know. All of them lying because as you want them to do it, they can reverse it. So you know sorry and you know thing that you just try to play with people's minds. But I'm saying Kamla, a long time Miss Kamla Persadi says being disqualified from being holding any high office. She should not even be holding the office of the opposition. So I'm not talking about who thing and Penelope and this and that. Why didn't support the member for Miaro? And the other four of them fellows anymore with him. Why they don't support him? Because all they need is the support. All Party need is more support from the UNC and take Cleveland sign and they take a letter to the president and say they no longer recognize Kamla Persadi as an opposition leader and they represent Party or whoever it is to be the opposition leader and Kamla board. Kamla will be no more the opposition leader. But they want to talk about democracy and party. Well, Dominic, I've locked on and listening.
Thank you, sir. Like I see the party groups, they're saying Mayara being forced to select Kevin Ramnarayan as opposed to Rushton Parry. We see how that goes. Brian, morning.
Morning to you, Dominic.
Morning, sir.
Morning to your listeners and callers. Dominic, you know, Mr. Chance hit the nail on the head this morning. I'll tell you why. As you had indicated, Kamla Persadi waited until Joe Biden and his wife was on a plane to California to have a little vacation before they came back home. Then she put out her statement. Because you see, Kamla Persadi is of the view that her statement would not have got to the ears of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. In 4 years' time, Mr. Trump, Mr. Chancellor alluded to, if the Democrats should come back into office, you see, they keep records and they don't forget. They keep very, very copious records. Because what she has done, Kamla Persadi has not yet, the last caller wasn't correct, you know, a bit. She hasn't damaged herself, you know. She has damaged Trinidad and Tobago. Because those statements go out as official statements from the non-executive government of Trinidad and Tobago. and it will be heard around the world. It may not make a headline front page in other papers like you post and so on, but I can promise you those words will be in some paper somewhere that some Democrat is going to read because they follow everything. How you think they're looking at Trinidad and Tobago today? Not Kamla Prasad, it's how they're looking at Trinidad and Tobago today. Because a statement like that reflects on who? Not on her and the UNC. It reflects on us. That is why when she did what she did with respect to Jamaica, it wasn't Kamla Prasad's successor that Dr. Rowley flew to Jamaica to defend. He flew to defend Trinidad and Tobago and our businesses. And that is why I'm saying that she's not damaging herself. She wants to get $100,000 pension when they must come. It is we, the people, who are going to feel it if we cannot get gas from Dragon, if we cannot negotiate and have foreign policy, good foreign policy arrangements with countries abroad, especially like America and so on, and those of the Caribbean, who she has told that they are so dumb that she doesn't want them to come here to oversee the election.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be careful what our leaders, when they are in office, it doesn't matter if they're not as prime minister or president, but when they are in a particular office, their words, as you rightly said, have a sway, and they are damaging us, the people. Because if in the future, 4 years from now, Democrats get back into office, and Kamla Prasad, heaven forbid, is in office until what, 2030, you think they would talk to her? You think they won't have anything to do with Trinidad and Tobago? They will remember that letter. They will remember those words. And therein lies the clear and present danger of this woman. Because this is the same woman, when she was in office between 2010 and 2015, entertained Maduro and Joe Biden as Vice President of the United States. It was all good for a wink and a smile and an entertainment. But today, look at what you wait until the man literally leave office and say, well, he ain't gonna see this. Kamala Harris, who might very well go back up in 4 years, she ain't gonna see this. This is for Donald Trump eyes and ears only, really? No, it's not. And I keep warning, we all keep warning the people of Trinidad because don't forget these things. Because you want to get into office, because you want to become prime minister again so you could help your friends and family, that you are here to scorch the earth of our country, our beloved country, so that you will be able to get in there. And you have a bunch of dummies following you. One of them supposed to be in a Lebanese jail. You know what's supposed to be in a jail in Trinidad and Tobago because of his life sport thing? He did with life sport. These are the people you want us to follow, and you would have put in office to run against who? Trinidad and Tobago. There's one opportunity alone. It's just like this one from Martin George from Tobago. How many times Dr. Rowley since last year, August, has been to Tobago? You couldn't meet Dr. Rowley and talk about the Coprico that you so have a concern about. But you have to wait and come on after everything passes in the parliament. I would have shortly proclaimed you have to come on the TV with your. Anyway, I want to say that. To show us that though you have a problem with the Coprico, to have a voice just it's loud and it has no sense and it reminded me of the person given us same narrative. No sense. All the time Dr. Rowley talking about this. In Tobago so many times. You could say, let's meet with Dr. Rowley to talk to him about the Coprico. But you wait until this late hour, this last hour to talk about it. And Kamla put some says now waiting until Joe Biden and Kamala Harris leaves office to send that nasty letter where he has absolutely no evidence of anything. We have to be mindful and careful and see the dangers of that woman and and those who want to give her that level of support when they know she's talking stupidness. We have to be mindful that the ones that are going to be affected by this are our people, our manufacturers, our exporters, our importers. The Ottomans are already talking about tariffs. We are a small entity in the Caribbean, and we have to coalesce around each other in order for us to survive in the bigger world. You have to be very, very careful of what we say and put out there. But Kamla does not care. She will scorch the earth behind her. It doesn't matter. She will live in the ashes. It does not matter to her. Clear, I've said it many times before, clear and present danger to Trinidad and Tobago. And we have to be mindful of this and ensure that she never ever again sees the corridors of power in this country. Because I am telling you, it will be war unto us, because she does not want the legacy of Dr. Rowley to see the face of day as far as that dragon deal and those other deals are concerned. She does not care. She will destroy, and by extension, she will destroy Point Lisat. And then we people, we who are the only country in the world to sell the second amount of ammonia, highest amount of ammonia around the world, urea, methanol, it will all go to naught because this woman does not care about us. She cares about herself and what she can do to other people. With a smile and a wink and a shake hand and a roti. Trinidad and Tobago, be careful. Be very, very careful. Listen, look on, and when that time comes, you know what your mission is. Do what is right, not only by yourself, but for your children and for the country that you love, that all of us love. Dominic, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Eric.
Hey, good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Morning to the listeners, the callers, and followers of another segment of Facts Asked Upon Things. Right. I must say thanks to Sister Jen, Mr. Chance, Brian, and all who would have made their valuable contribution with respect to what is taking place of this Owose Paria Zamwati, who continuously put this country in dilemma. Right? Now, you being a former prime minister of our country, you being a former attorney general under the Basio Pandey administration, you being a former minister of education under the Basio Pandey administration, and you being the current opposition leader of the United National Conmen, right, would sit down for the last 4 years, right, and in the last year will pen to paper the most nice and hypocritical letter, right, disparaging the Biden administration. Why? Because you felt in your mind that, hey, Donald Trump coming back in office, so we will at least get some airplay. Woman, let me tell you something. In the eyes of Donald Trump, you are nothing. You will be nothing, and you will end up being nothing. Right? Because what you did there, you tarnished the image of our country as heavily dependent on the United States of America via import and export.
right? America is one of our largest importers of our goods, right? Zamwati, I don't know if you had a few gazul before you pen to paper that long diatribe, right? So with that being said and done, I think that this woman is an utmost disgrace in the face of this country called Trinidad and Tobago. And it have these so-called persons like Mango Head and Ada Roberts and these who continuously come do their lives and want to talk a paka gubar to give people the perception that the old Zamwati, she did this and she did that and she did the other. Like they forgot when she was Prime Minister what she would have said when natural disasters would have hit Caribbean Islands. What she said? That Trinidad and Tobago is not a what? An ATM machine. But remember when when disaster hit those other countries, Manning used to send little finances for them to help rebuild their countries and whatever needs possible. She jump up and say, Trinidad and Tobago is not an ATM machine. One, when hurricane, I think it was one of the hurricane that hit Dominica and Dr. Dr. already wanted the residents of Dominica to come to Trinidad for a period of time because they have family down here. The UNC make a data issue as well. It goes a step further with the bacchanal with Guyana and Venezuela with the land issue. You jump up on the platform and you said you want to you send a warning to the Maduro government, do not touch Guyana, because if you touch Guyana, you touch all of we. Or should I say all of us? Right? So who's all of us? Are you saying the whole of Trinidad and Tobago or the East Indian population in this country called Trinidad and Tobago? Because I could distinctively recall is a trend you all want to create. Trinidad, Guyana, Suriname, Kamla, don't fool me now. You can fool your people. You can fool people who you think illiterate and foolish. I will buy into your rhetoric, right? And then now you find that wasn't enough. After you done disparage the CARICOM, you disparage Dominica. Now you disparage Venezuela, and now you're coming to disparage United States of America, the then President Joe Biden. So it goes to show that you is not suitable. You're not fit to be any prime minister in waiting. No, not now, not never, and definitely not in the future. Because you is a total embarrassment to this country. And then you have these two women, well, Uncle Joe and Auntie Padarat, coming to defend you with that foolishness. Well, here now, Dominic, I tell you, people in this country had to really be Tongo Soro. Right? Real Tongo Soro. To see that all what this woman trying to damage the image of this country and coming in my face to say vote for all you. So I must stay in my finger for the next 5 years to deal with what all you continuously put in the country in. And just what Brian would have said. Let's say if Kamala Harris decides to run for election in America in 2028, right? And then 2 years after it's our election, 2030. You think that what this old Saparia Zamwati said, no, you feel it's going to be 4 years down the road? They're going to watch Trinidad and say, what? Who the hell Trinidad they go feel they are? You understand? So these things have a tendency of repeating itself. Those documents and things don't go away. They might think that it will die in the sunset because they feel that in Trinidad and Tobago, we have a 9-day wonder. So every 9 days, something new occurs. Not in America. Your old Zamwati, not in America. Them things don't happen. They will have that on a record. Just as how they try to malign Maduro when he won the election not last year, year before. It's last year, year before, I remember.
Last
right?
year. Last year.
And you're coming now with this bull, this hogwash. People, we have to stay focused. We have on board with Minister Stuart Richard Young, the Honorable Prime Minister in waiting. We have an election to fight, and all those who want to say all kind of things, I want to disparage, I want to cause bacchanal and confusion and kankalang and whatever. We who on board with Mr. Ford, with Minister Ford, Stuart Young, Stuart Young, we have to stay focused. Because you know it have a lot of cockroaches all about running about. Right? So, closing, Kamla's LGBTQ acronym is Kamla's LGBTQ, right? Liking good bullshit talk. That is, no, looking to give bullshit talk. That is Kamla's acronym for the LGBTQ. Looking to give bullshit talk. That's Kamla. Dominic, with that being said and done, locked on this then good program.
Thank you, sir. Final call. Hello, good morning.
One more thing.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Nepal, right, that had an earthquake. Kamla sent $5 million, right? The Indian people. You must have, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't have the Caribbean neighbors, which you export food to, and they give us food. So if you're in trouble with my neighbor, you know, help you out. Because we are neighbors, I help you out. I can go Africa and help somebody I do not know, right? So something wrong with her. You only help your own kind, Kamla. When you become Prime Minister, God forbid, who will you help? Would you help Curry or Palau, right? All blood is red, Kamla. Do not stay mad and come on my front gate that ask me to vote for you. I'm going to need a lawyer to pitbull, 10 back home, and 50 coffins. And I want some help to get those things. I'm interested in helping give me those things. Pitbulls. That man by you and he, Gaber. Come a lawyer. I'm talking back home. I'm asking you know. I'm serious. Because you guys hate me and call me Abe and Oreo and say them dirty head child and want my vote. I'm not for sale. I may sell my food or my poems that never sold my body or integrity or class or morals. And people, if you love your land, stop and think. Think seriously. If I voted in, what's my future? What about my children? Because when it's for the taxes drive the nation. In the sense of road, education, hospitals, tech workers. If you cut taxes, what about the public servants? Would they get on 10%, 4%? Because you went IMF. People will lay off Kamla. Public servants, yes, I understand you want more money. You all do. But Carnival costume sold out. Carnival pets sold out. Where's priority? Where is it? Yes, spend money, no. I'm not saying no. But if you want more than that, you have to have taxes. House tax, for the tax of those, you get more money. And if she come and take power and business taxes will drop, where money coming from? Monopoly? Or you say cut no? Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. I see there's a very vibrant debate taking place on YouTube. I don't have the time to engage this morning, even except to say I do understand what is Ketogunda. What is it that you have with Stuart Young? Oh gosh, you're saying give everybody else credit, but you wouldn't even give the man his own credit. You're saying that in 2018 things were signed and all of this, but come on. The fact of the matter is, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, their administration was critical to the developments that took place with respect to the facilitation of the licenses for the Dragon gas and the delinking of Manatee and so on, right? They came into office when? On the 20th of January 2021. When did Stuart Young become Minister of Energy? So it means, therefore, that all of these other people that you're talking about, or all of these other ministers of energy, would not have engaged the Biden administration because they preceded the Biden administration. Right? And while they talk about all these things that were done and what was signed, the fact of the matter is that the most critical aspect of what took place, which would have facilitated these licenses and so on, would have taken place under the Biden administration. It is fact, it is Biden administration that would have given, ease some of the sanctions that would have allowed for the OFAC license and all of that. It wasn't the Trump administration. Franklin Khan would have been minister under the Trump administration, and we know how Trump felt about Nicolas Maduro. It is a fact. There would have been no 30-year license for the Dragon and 20-year license for the Manatians. These things would not have happened if it is the US government did not give their consent, which is why we are concerned now. Because all the work that was done over the last 3 to 4 years could be undone with one executive order by Donald Trump. He could say, well, yes, okay, the Biden administration gave you all the OVAC license that expires in 2025 or whatever it is, but I'm bringing an end to it before that. Just like the site, the CBP site or whatever it is that people who were desirous of coming to the US to the proper channels, who would have had appointments and so on. And as soon as Donald Trump was sworn in, the site shut down. And they're taking no further appointments, and appointments that were made before were cancelled. So I am making the point. If you are saying that we are now concerned about the Trump administration and the challenges that his administration presents to us progressing with respect to the Dragon deal and so on, it's the same Trump that was there when up to 2020 and up to January 2021 is the same Trump. So therefore he would not have been pro-Maduro then, and he's not pro-Maduro now. And that is when Franklin Khan was there, and that is when, what is her name? The former MP for Labray. Forgive me, her name slips me at the moment. And all of these people that you're talking about. The most consequential activities with respect to these things took place under the Biden administration, where Stuart Young, if memory serves me correctly, would have become Minister of Energy in 2021. The same year the Biden administration came in. And I'm not downplaying what was done before, which would have led to that. But the fact of the matter is, it was the ability of Stuart Young and Dr. Rowley and their team to convince, having worked with Maxine Waters and Hakeem Jeffries and all of these guys in Washington. When how many times did Franklin Khan go to Washington to meet with whoever? Did he ever meet with Donald Trump to discuss Dragon? Did he ever meet with Mike Pence to discuss Dragon? As Stuart Young would have met with Joe Biden and would have met with Kamala Harris. Did he ever meet with Donald Trump's Secretary of State? I can't remember who the heck was his Secretary of State. He was changing it so many times. But it was these meetings that was able to cement all that came before. So how can you discount what took place over the last 2 years to say Stuart Young has just come and everything happened before and he just... No, it was the shuttle work that Dr. Rowley spoke about that took place between 2021 and 2024 with Stuart Young. Where the same thing, why I think the UNC focusing now to tell you about Stuart Young, $1.2 million was spent for him to travel here and travel. Why are they not talking about how much money Franklin Khan spent? Why are they not talking about how much money that Kevin Ramnarine spent? or any of the others? Why are they not talking about that? You know why? Because the most consequential, notwithstanding, I'm not downplaying what the others would have done and the contribution that would have made, but at the end of the day, it is because of the OFAC license that they were able to proceed. No OFAC license, we couldn't do nothing. That is why when the OFAC license was issued, the first one, UNC and all of them was up like, oh, 2 years, what you could do in 2 years and thing and all of that. And the robots do a whole life to talk about that, and that is inconsequential. It make no difference because it takes longer than that for these companies to make a final investment decision and so on. But Stuart Chung was able to work with these guys to say, listen, this is the time frame, the timeline that we have. I need you all to accelerate your timeline with respect to making a final investment decision. That is why he could say that the head of BP, international head of BP, the international head of Shell, the international head of Woodside, call him on a first name basis, could pick up the phone and call him to say, hey, Stuart, would you be attending this energy conference wherever? This is why when these folks go on and they're talking to their shareholders in Saudi Arabia and in the Emirates and all of these things, and they reference Trinidad and Tobago and the work that has been done. I told you there's an article where the head of BP said all of these things would not have been possible without the intervention of the Trinidad and Tobago government, in particular, Dr. Rowley and Stuart Young. So again, why it is you continue to beat up on the man? Is it because you're, I don't know. I don't want to speculate. I really don't want to speculate. But give the man his flowers, as they say now. You're going to give everybody else credit. You don't want to give Stuart Young his credit. Why? Why? Well, okay. Well, let me ask you this question, right? When he becomes prime minister in a few weeks' time, should he continue to hold on to the Ministry of Energy or the Minister of Energy portfolio, or should he pass it on to somebody else? And if you think he should pass it on, who should he pass it to? Which other member of the cabinet do you think could take on that portfolio of Minister of Energy and do the kind of work that Stuart Young did over the last 3 years or so? Or should he hold on to the portfolio, given the intimate awareness that he has of all of these negotiations and all of these things, right? And the work that he has done. I'm just asking you, you tell me, should he give it up? Or should he continue to hold on to it and give it to somebody else who, in your estimation, in the cabinet, could do a much better job? That's all. I agree with you, Sarah. I didn't want to say it, but I agree with you. That is exactly what it is, and nothing else. Dr. Rowley said that the dragon gas strategy was his legacy, not Stuart Young. He praised Dr. Amory Brown as the one who did the OFAC. When did he do that? When did he do that? When? Come on now, man. You say not that it was Amory Brown who was responsible for the OFAC. Did Amory Brown go on any of the trips with Stuart Young when he had to go to the White House? Did Amory Brown go with Stuart Young when he went on any of his trips to Venezuela? Did he go on any of these trips? So how could he have negotiated the OFAC license when he wasn't there? Well, he was doing it on Zoom, on telephone calls. So why didn't he go? Why wasn't he there? What contribution did he make? Come on now. Seriously? All you so want to beat up on this man. Why? Because of his, I will say it is because of his race. Because if it is he was a black man, you wouldn't have had an issue with it. Right? Because Amory Brown wasn't there that long in this administration either. But you want to praise up, oh, it's Amory Brown who think, but just come out and say it. You have a problem with the man because he's not of African descent. Pure and simple. And there are some of you who want to continue to hold on to this thing that the PNM is supposed to be an African party, and the leader of the PNM must always be somebody of African descent. Always. Because you cannot wrap your minds around the fact, well, somebody of a different race. Yeah. But it's not the first time. And that is what happened in the United States, is because certain people, a significant portion of the population, could not wrap their minds around having a black woman as their president. It was an anomaly for them to elect a black man. But he had charisma, right? And he had appeal, and he was able to win over people. But Kamala Harris didn't have as much time to be able to do the same thing. Now, after she has left office, and you're looking and you're seeing on all of the various platforms people talking about Kamala Harris for 2028, because they're seeing what they didn't want to see before. So that while Donald Trump is, and she said on the first day in office, on day one, while he is looking to make good on his promise to go after his enemies, and he will be dealing with his enemies list, she would be dealing with her with a list of things to do. What was the first thing she did after she left the inauguration? She went straight to California, where she lives, to go and assist the fire department in helping people and distributing food and all kind of things. That's what she did. She didn't go home and sulk. She didn't say, well, let me stick around Washington and line for a little bit. No, she went home, and the first thing she'd rather than go home and cock up of it and say, oh my gosh, it's been a long 4 years or whatever it is. She went out there, and there's footage. Where is Donald Trump? He's the president. Has he made any statements on what is happening in California, where people continue to lose their homes and lose their property and lose their lives? He should have been on the ground first thing to see what assistance or aid he could offer to these people. Your own citizens. Your own citizens. We used to need to talk about drill, baby drill, and you only looking to sign executive orders to do things like to roll back Joe Biden's executive orders, some of which intended to help the people, like putting caps on prescription drugs for persons on Medicare, people who have diabetes and using insulin. And now they're saying in this short time, where those persons who were relieved to see a $35 cap on insulin, it has, with him signing that executive order, the price is now going to go back up to $600, right? So he is protecting the interests of big pharma, the big business, all these people who are losing money because Joe Biden put a cap on how much profit they could make on exploiting people's desperation to want to live and to live as normal a life as possible. And I keep telling you all, go on YouTube and just Google American citizens rationing insulin, and you will see a whole flurry of videos come up about family members talking about their loved ones who died because they were rationing the insulin because they couldn't afford it, ended up in diabetic comas, and eventually died. And this is the kind of thing that Kamla Persad-Bissessar is supporting. They talk about the healthcare system in this country, and here it is that you had an administration that sought to use the taxpayers' dollars to benefit the wider citizenry, right? By helping them to pay less for their medication, so they could use the extra money to maybe pay a bill or two instead of finding themselves in debt, living paycheck to paycheck. And she calls that a disaster. And Trump comes in and he reverses that and now puts back the hardship on these people so that his billionaire friends who in the pharmaceuticals industry could continue to make millions of dollars that they don't need, and they just park it up in the bank somewhere, or they buy a next boat, or they buy another private jet or whatever it is, or another house in the Hamptons, feeding off of the innocent citizens who are struggling to live. And she supports that. Trump also pulled the US out of the World Health Organization. She talked about forced mandates here with respect to COVID. And so I want to ask her, should you come back into office later this year, are you going to follow Trump and suit, no pun intended, and pull Trinidad and Tobago out of the World Health Organization? Are you going to do that? Because since you support Trump's policies, and it is so great and so wonderful, and everything Biden did was a disaster. When Biden came in, and during the height of COVID, remember one of the things that he did? When it is that the moratorium on rents was coming to an end sometime, I think in September of 2021, that moratorium which prevented landlords from putting people out of their homes because they weren't able to pay their rent. It was Biden who came and extended it for these people who were still suffering, who were still out of jobs and still struggling, and brought the child tax credit so that some people could get a little extra money. All of these things she calls a disaster. That was a disaster. What, do you feel Trump was going to do that? Not to heck of that, right? He wasn't going to do that. And here it is that we are on day 4, and he has already stirred up the anger and angst of millions of people around the world. Some of his own supporters who gave him their vote and put their trust in him are now going to suffer the consequences of the things that he's done. You feel when he signed that executive order to reverse the cap on medication, he came about it? The hell with them. All of them who spent their money talking about, oh, they save up so hard and they save up money so long to be able, that was their savings, their savings they had to be able to purchase a plane ticket and to pay for a couple of days in a hotel so they could come and see him sworn in and witness history in the making. Who spent the money to buy tickets to attend the event, and then he moved it indoors because he claimed it had to do with it would be when he went cold, despite the fact that Obama would have been sworn in 2013 or 2009 in much colder weather. But the truth is about his ego that he couldn't stand the thought of the National Mall having an even smaller crowd than what he would have experienced in 2017. So to get rid of that and the comparisons that would have been made, because he's obsessed with crowd sizes. It's only a matter of time before he talks about the low viewership, the lowest viewership in years, television viewership for an inauguration. We'll talk about it soon enough. Right? But if you really care about them people, why you don't refund them the money that they paid for the tickets? Nope. Thanks for coming. Okay, but you could watch it in the arena and so forth, and have a safe trip back home to wherever you're from, and hopefully you'll be able to make some money to pay the bills and build back up your savings now that you used to come waste your time to come to Washington DC. That she supports. Nothing that he does she criticizes. Nothing. And I'm certain she will remain quiet on the pardons that he gave out as well. But as I said before, everything that he does henceforth that is deemed to be unconscionable, she owns it. Because you have declared from the very outset. That's why you should have shut your mouth. Just give a general congratulations and leave it there. But when you want to double down and triple down to let the world know that you support Donald Trump fully and everything that he does, any and everything that he does going forward, Passad Bisessa, that meets with the eye of the American people and by the rest of the world, some of whom we have now politicians from across the world who are emboldened to come out and condemn the things that he does. That is unconscionable. Let's see if you will step up. Since you want him to see you. And let's know we stand with Trump and we support. Well, okay, you go ahead and stand and support. But we will bolt it to your chest. Anything that he does that is unconscionable, you support that. And we don't want to hear nothing from you. Right? You are an enabler. Let me just take Zena and then I'll go. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Dominic.
Morning.
And good morning to all the listeners and callers out there. Well, I just want to say good morning and I want to say hallelujah, amen to all that I heard this morning. This morning was exceptionally good. So as usual. So I just say sending out my hellos and highs out there. And I want to just tell people, you see the health system that people like to cry down, they really, really had to be against the government. And when I hear about places, and especially the same America, the kind of money people have to put out for health care.
Yep.
All up the islands, people have to leave where they are and come here to get health services. You think, Dominic, let me just tell you something. I felt sick just around the Christmas time. And I went there. The doctor said she wasn't sure what it could have been, the pain I was having. Anyhow, she said, go to the hospital for a few days in the arena. Well, I thought I was in the Hyatt, you know. Well, here now, I couldn't believe I live in Arima. I never go into the hospital, the new hospital before. I couldn't believe it's such a high-class hospital I had in Arima here. Well, I was so proud. I think the proudness that I felt helped me to start the pain to pass. And here I tell them, I say, well, let me go home. Hear them now. So what happened? Were you busy to go home? I say, well, all is there.